Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the August meeting of the Boulder Housing Advisory Board. We have a very special meeting tonight with a panel presentation we'll be getting to as quickly as we can. I'm Michael Lucchese, the chair of PAB, and we'll begin the meeting with a roll call of the board members. So Karen Clearman. Here. Danny Teodoro should be joining by Zoom.
Not yet.
Stephen Kip Hennessy.
I'm here.
Philip Ogren. Here. Julianne Ramsey. Not here.
I'm here. Hi, guys.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Great to hear you. Okay, we not only have a quorum, we have what will be a full house once Danny joins us. And we also have ML Robles, our planning board liaison. We do have one absent member. I'm sorry, Corinne Hoskin. I think she's on a trip right now. That's not here. Good. So we'll do a quick agenda review and we'll get into it. We have we've done roll call, public participation. If anybody is waiting to be heard, we'll get to that next. And then we'll go directly to our panel. We have a wonderful expert panel calling Housing Solutions for Homelessness. I have spent a lot of time talking about the homeless issue and researching it in the last few months. And we finally came to the conclusion that we should stick to our knitting and talk about housing solutions and not all the other very important, very pressing, but not our knitting issues of policing and so forth. So we really want to focus on folks who have been successful in providing all kinds of housing. I think we'll be focusing on transitional housing and permanently supportive housing tonight. We have a wonderful panel. We'll basically be giving us case studies. And we'll get to that momentarily. So do we have any members of the public who are, okay, do you want to review the rules of participation, Jay, before we get to the hearing from the public?
We'll do that right now.
Great.
So participants are, oh, no, sorry, that's the end. I should probably start at the beginning. Challenging. Hold on. Stop sharing.
The transcript.
No, very distracting, isn't it?
Just realized I'm not in the picture.
I'll get your words off.
Go. Everybody.
Scoot over.
Sure, why not?
Funny, I always struggle with this. All right, the city has engaged with community members to co-create a vision for productive, meaningful, and inclusive civic engagement. It's designed to support the physical and emotional safety of pretty much everybody. Question is, can I advance the slides now? Jeez. Go. Got it. For more information, you can go to our website. The following examples are rules of decorum found in the Boulder Revised Code. These will be upheld during the meeting by our chair. All remarks and testimony shall be limited to matters related to city business. No participant shall make threats or use other forms of intimidation, obscenity, racial epithets, and other speech and behavior that disrupts or otherwise impedes the ability of the meeting, conduct of the meeting are prohibited. And participants are required to sign up to speak using their name, commonly known by, and individuals must display their whole name before being allowed to speak. Currently, only audio is allowed online. That's it. I believe we have one person so far. Okay.
Yep, we have Lynn. Second.
May I pee first?
Yes. Hi, Lynn. Yep, you got your 3 minutes. Welcome.
May I pee first? P-E-E. May I go to the bathroom first, please? Yes or no?
I don't think so, Lynn. We have a busy group.
Gotcha, thanks. That's all I needed.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, you want to know about housing in Boulder? Let me tell you about it. It's a saturated market. This airport deal is a complete screw over. I'm gonna promote that we take the grants that we are entitled to, because who knows if we'll ever get those back in 40 years when this thing goes through, if it ever does, this housing. We do not need more housing at the airport. We do not need it at the planning reserve, Area 3. We do not need it at J Road like this big project last night that's mostly unaffordable. And middle income is $1,700 to $2,600 a month. You know what Marpa House is now? You know what it is? It was $900, including food. And that's probably $400 a month food. Now it's probably $500 a month food, since food has no end sight, right? $900 a month at Marpa is now $1,700 without food, and probably without any utilities also, for one bedroom in that place. What you need for revised housing to accommodate folks in this environment is communal housing options. And you do not provide them, and you do not incent them, and you need to. Because that is how people can live reasonably. You know how many people in Gaza have one toilet? 4,000, one toilet. I think there's something a little between that, especially when we've got these monster mansions with, people that don't even use them. They're there half the year. This is outrageous what's happening here. People are coming from Aspen. They're coming here first because it's better for them. It's outrageous what's going on here. And you are fighting an uphill battle if you think more housing is going to do it. More infill, more density is not. That's just going to make it more expensive, because for every less dense place, you get 10 expansive, very expensive places. Big, expensive places. Read me. This is what you will find out eventually. But why can't the Housing Advisory Board figure it out like everybody else has?
Thank you, Lynn. You're done?
No, I'd like this to be interactive, and it never is. And I never hear anything back. It's like talking into an echo chamber. And I don't
Okay.
appreciate that. And I want you to know that.
Time is up. You should know that the airport petition was pulled.
Yeah, and we're not taking the grant money.
Right. So,
And that's
separate
our loss.
conversation. Okay, thank you. That brings us to our panel discussion. I'm going to have Kurt and the panelists introduce themselves. Just to let you know, this is not anything we're going to develop a recommendation on. Our job is to make recommendations to the city council and planning board on housing. We are in a research mode and a learning mode, and we just want to hear what you have to say and hear your case studies. So there will be no action item tonight. We're just here to listen and to converse. So Kurt, please take it away.
Thank you. So I'm Kurt Fernhauer, and I support the Department of Housing and Human Services at the City of Boulder. And I work with all these wonderful people here on the panel. I'll be asking questions of them that were given to me by HAB prior to this meeting. And I think you considered those questions over the last couple of weeks or at your last meeting, I'm not sure, but I'll be presenting those and trying to create a discussion out of this. But we're going to go in I think as you introduce yourself, each of you, I think, brought slides this evening. So you can introduce yourself, go straight into your slides, introducing what you do and how you connect to homelessness and that work in our city. So I'm going to start off with Megan Newton.
Thank you. My name is Megan Newton. I'm the policy advisor on homelessness, working with her in Housing and Human Services. And my role here tonight is kind of to set the stage, to kind of give you an overview of what most of these programs fall under, how we address homelessness with housing. And it's not just us in Boulder, but more how HUD at a national level and DOH at a state level, some of the interventions we use. to address homelessness through housing. So typically, housing will fall into one of these three buckets, either transitional housing, rapid rehousing, or permanent supportive housing. Now, there are a lot of different exits from homelessness that may not fill in that. Could be reunification with family. It could be that they get affordable housing outside the system, housing choice voucher that isn't dedicated to folks who are homeless. They might need a higher level of care, like a skilled nursing facility or assisted living facility. They might be able to go into market rate rent. So these aren't the only way folks exit homelessness. These are just all of the kind of program types that we use to specifically exit folks from homelessness. So transitional housing is a temporary solution to help individuals move towards permanent housing. We see this often in families. We see it often with folks exiting institutional settings or in sober living facilities, treatment facilities, those kinds of things are all captured under transitional housing. HUD, who funds a lot of this work, does not consider that formally housed. You still hold the definition of homeless when you're in transitional housing. And the goal is to get a sense of stability and then move into some sort of permanent housing. Rapid rehousing is typically used for folks who are new to homelessness, may not have a lot of barriers to getting housed. And so it's intended to be a quick exit from homelessness with the temporary supports in both rental assistance and supportive services that taper off as they move through the program. And then permanent supportive housing is surely what you guys hear a lot about, and that's long-term supportive services for those folks experiencing chronic homelessness. Oftentimes it's used with single adults. There are some families. Boulder, I don't believe, has any family PSH. Denver has some, but it's typically used for single adults. So this kind of breaks it down a little bit further, with the different types of permanent supportive housing. So there's project-based housing. So I'll give examples so you probably would be better. It's something like Bluebird, right? Something where these units are dedicated to this population. It may be Bluebird or maybe something like Hilltop where there's certain units, but it's dedicated to this type of housing. Scattered site housing is what is where folks use vouchers. So folks who are experiencing homelessness may get vouchers dedicated to them, but then they must go into the community and find a landlord that will rent to them. There's pros and cons to both of those. We find in project-based where you can bring the services to folks, that's very convenient, but sometimes it's hard when you get a lot of folks who have similar barriers in one space and they kind of bounce off each other, where the community, sometimes it's harder for them to integrate into those services, but also it gives them the ability to have neighbors that may have not had the same issues they have. And then we locally, and it's, I mean, not just locally, but it is fairly unique, have a little bit of a hybrid where we have partnered with All Roads to acquire units. So they are the landlord. So it kind of does that project-based piece, but they're out in the community, which does the scattered site piece. So we typically use those for individuals who have extensive criminal histories or just hard to house for one reason or another, where finding a landlord has been difficult. And so as far as the city goes, these are some of the things, not all inclusive, but some of the things that we currently support. Bridge House, Ready to Work, we fund some rental assistance for folks exiting those programs. Tribe, Sober Living, so we purchased a house for a tribe that does recovery services for folks who are exiting homelessness. We support permanent supportive housing in the project-based around supporting Bluebird, supporting Hilltop. Scattered site, we have our own City of Boulder vouchers that we provide to Boulder Housing Partners for folks. This is on top of, most vouchers are not locally funded vouchers. Most vouchers go through the state or HUD. By far, they're the biggest provider of the actual housing support. But we did create a local program to kind of fill in a niche where those programs might create a gap. And then the hybrid, we had partnered with both the county and All Roads to purchase some of those units that All Roads has purchased and has folks in them, 12 currently, correct? And so the county primarily does the rapid rehousing piece. using state funds, so the city doesn't have the direct piece of that, but it is being done here in Boulder.
Can I ask you a question? Where's Hilltop? I know Lee Hill, but I don't know Hilltop.
I'm guessing Hilltop is, you meant Leo. Hilltop isn't built yet.
Well, it was kind of as an example of something that's coming online.
Yeah,
Yeah, it has
so
some
Lee Hill
PSH.
is the same as Bluebird, and then Hilltop is coming, but it's what we're calling integrated permanent supportive housing. So we have 15 units in a 60-unit property in South Boulder where the Mount Calvary Church.
Oh, okay, okay.
You would have known it probably as the
Mount
Mount Calvary.
Calvary. Thank you.
So it's like, but I use that example just to show that there are Lee Hill,
Yeah.
Bluebird are the two that are exclusively PSH, but HP has some that have some units that are dedicated to PSH, but not all of the units.
Great, thank you.
That's it for me.
Okay, Melissa, you're up next.
Great. I'm Melissa Arroyo Green and I'm with Bridge House. Most people know us as Ready to Work. We work with adults experiencing homelessness, and I apologize to Jay. He received my PowerPoint literally 10 minutes before the meeting, so sorry. I don't know if it's gonna work, but maybe not. That's okay.
That was your first slide, right? There were people?
She's not up
Or
on
was that the
screen.
last one?
That was our first slide.
Usually not this challenge with Zoom, but for some reason.
That's okay. So we're Colorado's first work solution to homelessness. So we all are very well versed in housing first. We believe that those that can and are willing to go back to work if given the opportunity can and should do so, and they come through our program to accomplish that. Special.
There we go.
No, 2 slides now. There you go.
Could you define work, or you're about to do that?
Yeah, so works just means we're using work because it works to take people from homelessness into permanent housing and self-sustainability. So we are Colorado's first WorkWorks nonprofit, but there are other nonprofits doing that same work. So we are modeled after the Doe Fund, which was started in New York. And there are other nonprofits in Georgia, Philadelphia, Texas doing some of the same work. So at Bridge House, we have a basic needs program, our Ready to Work program, and Community Table Kitchen actually is one of our social enterprises that supports our Ready to Work program. So we are a continuum of programming for adults experiencing homelessness, from low barrier basic needs to innovative Ready to Work program. Ooh. Sorry. Can you go to the next slide? That one's missing its word. So our basic needs program, we actually started 27 years ago, and that was Community Table. So we had a bunch of volunteers that came together, decided that one of the ways that we could help the homeless population was by feeding them dinner. So they would make food in their kitchens and they would go to a park or a church and that dinner would be served. That has now evolved 27 years later to our Ready to Work program, where we're housing up to 100 folks a night in either our Boulder house or our Aurora house. And we have a third site coming online in early 2025. Community Table Dinner, I'm proud to say, is still happening 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at various locations in Boulder. I'm very proud of that meal service. So Ready to Work is a 3-legged stool. So we have work, which they come into our program, they join one of the social enterprise crews. It could be outdoors crews going to do landscaping or a culinary side. With that comes housing. They move into one of our congregate living facilities. We have 45 beds in Boulder, 50 in Aurora, and we'll have another 48 coming online in Inglewood that will serve Inglewood, Littleton, and Sheridan. The most unique portion of the 3-legged stool is support. So the support is customized to each individual. So when they come into the program, it really helps to remove the barriers that landed them in that homeless situation in the first place. So we do that again through the paid employment through one of our social enterprises, housing and congregate living. We do serve both men and women. They have 24/7 access to not only wraparound services, but all of their basic needs are met. So they can eat in our facility, Wi-Fi, laundry, anything they need, we will provide while they're in our program, and our program is about 12 months. Next slide. So these are our 3 facilities over Boulder, and a picture of, fingers crossed, what Hope Englewood looks like at the beginning of 2025. It is currently under construction, so right now there's a lot of dumpsters outside and building debris. But fingers crossed, we'll pull it over the finish line. Next slide.
What are those buildings? They're offices?
So we have renovated office buildings predominantly. So the one here in Boulder was a big insurance building. So there was a lot of insurance brokers working out of that. And one of the most surprising things is maybe 3 or 4 years after Ready to Work had opened and we'd been fully operational, people were still coming in to pay their insurance bills. So, I mean.
That was a fundraiser for you.
Fundraiser, yeah, just leave the check. No, it works really well for us to take an office building and renovate it into congregate living. So there are single rooms here in Boulder. Predominantly, the rooms are 4 or 5 people per room. There are 3/4 walls, so they do have privacy while they're with us. They have all their needs are met: their bed, dresser, closets, everything that they need.
And when trying to convert commercial office space into that type of housing, did you experience any pushback?
We have had some NIMBY situations. One very memorable in Aurora, where folks were worried about having homeless population coming to one building, thinking it was more of a shelter. We do not operate like a shelter. If you were to drive by our building, you wouldn't know that a Ready to Work program for homeless individuals was operating out of that building. But we do try to get ahead of that by having conversations with our neighbors, educational sessions within the communities that we're going to serve, inviting people into one of the houses that, like right now with Englewood under construction, we're inviting anybody that might have some concern into one of the other 2 buildings so they can kind of see what it operates as and what it looks like in the community when it's fully operational.
So maybe we don't talk about it now because I don't want to interrupt and people need to speak, but I would be really curious to know how you've had success in converting office into housing when most people say, or most developers say, that it really isn't viable, or like 20% of the buildings can be converted. And maybe it's because they're thinking about converting into like 1 and 2 bedroom apartments and you are converting into more of a congregate care. But so maybe we add that to the questions at the end. Thank you.
Sorry. That is a great question. And the biggest piece to that really is zoning, working with the cities and the counties around zoning. And
How are you zoned?
we are zoned for congregate living. Out here in Boulder, somebody cannot stay in our building longer than 2 years because then that becomes more permanent housing. But because we're transitional, it's zoned a little bit different versus somebody that might be building a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. It's a great question. Next slide. All right. So for us, we believe Ready to Work is a sustainable work business model. We do break the costly cycle of homelessness, addiction, and incarceration. We do have sober living congregate facilities. That doesn't mean that if somebody relapses, we kick them out. We are not one and done. So if somebody does have a relapse or has another issue, we do work with them through that issue. So they stay online to graduate and sustain themselves post-graduation. Provides a multifaceted community-based solution. We target about 1/3 of adults experiencing homelessness with the capacity that want to go back to work. So the way we kind of break that down is there's about 1/3 of folks that would be better served with a housing voucher. So those are usually the ones that have a higher level of disability, chronic homelessness, inability to go back to work and work 40 hours a week. There's 1/3 of adults that can go back to work and they're willing to go back to work, and that's our target audience. There's about 1/3 of folks that quite honestly are just happy with the way things are and they're not quite ready to change their circumstance, and that's okay too. And that's where the community partners come into play, in that we keep offering resources and having positive engagement, and eventually they're going to go to a resource and accept that. Next slide. So our Ready to Work, kind of talked a little bit about the support. That really is where the magic sauce is. These are some ideas of things that we do within that case management team. So we're trauma-informed, evidence-based. We do work with addiction, sobriety support. We have one-on-one case management, group meetings, career counseling, financial management, mentoring, and then we follow everybody that graduates our program 12 months post-graduation to make sure that they have the resources that they need to stay housed. I can honestly say that Boulder's been operating, it was 9 years this August, just not too long ago. And we still have people from our first cohort that will come to us and share with us what is happening in their lives, or bring their babies, or bring graduation pictures of their adult children. Very cool. Next slide. So this is kind of the impact of what Ready to Work had in 2023. So it goes through the capacity, our graduation, we graduated 81 folks last year. Graduation to us means that they are full-time employed, and that full-time employment sustains their housing and basic needs and the other pieces of their lives that they need to have in place. 81 was our highest graduation class, so that was very cool. We also just graduated our 500th graduate right after graduation last year. Success rate, we hover right about 75%. We would like to see that increase, but since we started 9 years ago, we've stayed at 74, 75%. So we're doing something very right, but I would still find a way to try to make it better. We're working on it every day. Nights of housing is over 31,000 combined. Meals provided over 97,000. Labor hours worked is 62,599. Those are our crews going out and working either at a catering event or landscaping. And our social enterprise revenue was 1.6 million.
How do you define that?
I'm sorry.
How do you define social enterprise revenue?
So the social enterprise revenue is truly what our crews are earning when they're out working in the community. So we have city contracts, county contracts. We work with, we have a catering company through our community table kitchen. We have a brownie business. And so we are working very hard to support ourselves, but more importantly, because we are a WorkWorks program, we have to have social enterprise for our trainees to go and start learning some skills.
Great, thank you.
Next slide. So these are just some of the type of work that we do in our outdoor landscaping services. I won't go through those, but you can see it's mostly weeding, mulching, anything that the city's crews might not have time to do, but they're working on bigger projects. We could take on the smaller projects, same with the county. Next slide. So our community table kitchen is our second enterprise. It started with alleviating hunger. Can I share the community table story? But really it's to create jobs for our trainees to work in and to create a pathway to learning a skill in the culinary service. They are Serve Safe certified when they leave the program, meaning that they can work as a supervisor level at the back of a house of a restaurant. So that's very cool. Our lines of business there are mission meals. So we do take food, donated food, make that into meals that go back out to community partners, but they can then give to the communities that they are serving. Catering, take and bake meals. Anytime you don't want to cook, you don't want your wives to cook or your families to cook or your neighbors to cook, you can call us up, order a meal, you pick it up, you take it home, you pop it in the oven. It's a really good meal. We do have a cafe over near BCH, and then our amazing truffle brownies. And I'm sorry I didn't bring some. So again, we had over 62,000 hours worked last year. It is the first stepping stone to self-sufficiency. After approximately 1 year, trainees graduate to mainstream jobs and permanent housing. And again, our success rate is at 75%. And that is Bridge House.
Can I ask a quick question? How do you get the meals, the take and bake meals? Those are available to the public?
So you can go on our website and there's catering option and then take and bake meals. And I'm telling you right now, the enchiladas are probably my favorite, but we have chicken pot pie,
Nice.
really good meals, but they change seasonally. So check back in and so good. You can either swing by and pick it up or we'll deliver in Boulder.
That's on bhrtw.org.
And I'll give you a business card before I leave.
Great.
Where do you get your funding from?
So about 60% is still philanthropic work, so grants, foundations, fundraising, new campaigns. In fact, we have our biggest gala will be on the 19th of September, our Farm to Table, and then the rest is earned through social enterprise. We're working right now to try to identify a third social enterprise, because as you can imagine, landscaping has ups and downs, and we don't want to have that law.
When you say you mean employment contracts with the government to put people to work?
Thank you. So Julie, you're up next.
Okay, well, first, thanks for inviting me. I'm going to talk about family homelessness, which is, many people aren't aware of it, first of all. It's not such a visible part of the homelessness problem. The first slide, first just an intro. I'm the executive director at EFA, and next slide. I think most people have heard of EFA, but I just wanted to make sure I started with what we do. Our mission is to provide stabilizing services. We're one of the main safety nets in Boulder, innovative programs and transformative advocacy to strengthen families and create a thriving community. EFA is a family resource center and a community-based safety net. We've been in the community over 100 years, so deep roots. And we have 5 main program areas. One is our food bank. That's in that building there from Yarmouth. We have a basic needs program, which includes about $3 million in direct financial assistance every year to help. That's not just for families with kids, that's for anyone, to help make ends meet. We have housing, and I'll talk a little bit about that next. And that is exclusively for families with kids that are going through homelessness. We have a children, youth, and family program as a family resource center, and an economic empowerment program to help people move out of poverty over the longer term. So last year we served about 8,500 people, and most of those are in the city of Boulder, just to give you an idea of the scale of operations. We also have an office up in Netherlands, and our housing is throughout Boulder County. So but I came here tonight to talk about housing and family homelessness. So next slide. We have 3 interventions around family homelessness. The first and foremost is to prevent it. It is the best investment. It's it avoids a lot of the impacts that affect kids and family dynamics for many years. So, and it's also the cheapest option, is to keep people from getting evicted. We have a Keep Families Housed program that we partner with the city of Boulder and it's 3 months of rental assistance over 12 months. This past year, it reached about 750 families with kids. Basic construct of the program is the first payment is based on housing insecurity, can't make ends meet, I'm gonna lose my housing. And then the next 2 payments are based on any time over the 12 months, but there are certain requirements. You know, the kids have to have seen a doctor and a dentist in the last 12 months. The parents have to have gone to a free financial counseling service or done a financial literacy class by the 3rd one. If they're eligible for Medicaid and SNAP food benefits, that they're enrolled. So just trying to, you know, bring more resources to the housing, to the families as part of the stabilization in housing. That program is actually quite successful. We've done it since 2016, I believe, which we piloted with the city. And since that year, we did an external impact evaluation that first year, but every year since, no family that's gotten rental assistance that year has lost their housing. And it's not that it's magic, it's just that is the nature of economic instability. People tend to be upside down twice a year. If you can, with just a small injection of money, I think it's, well, right now it's $800 is the maximum payment per month. It was $1,000 per month during COVID, but we've had some funding constriction as COVID money's gone away. But it doesn't cost much and it tends to stabilize quite a bit. Also, the impacts on kids that have been measured in terms of food security, on parents in terms of debt and savings are all quite positive. So we like that program. That's our the first front line, but people do lose their housing. And we provide emergency sheltering. We don't have a family shelter in Boulder County. It's not a great environment for kids. The level of and the duration of family homelessness, at least up till now, has been addressable with hotel stays. So many, not only EFA, many of the agencies, we work together and we provide up to like a week or two of a hotel stay. Because the idea is to get them on into something that it's mostly for like unsafe situations. You know, you're in a car, you're with a small child, it's cold. And we do probably around 100 families a year will fund short-term hotel stays with wraparound services and navigation and plotting what they're gonna do next. And then we are the main provider of actual rooftop housing for families with children that are going through homelessness. It's a type that was mentioned as temporary housing, transitional housing. We have 65 apartments around the county on 8 sites. And in Boulder, we have 28 apartments on 4 sites. So they're everything from a triplex to a 14-unit 70s apartment building. And apartments are better for family life in terms of than a group setting. So we do prefer that. The transitional housing, we have two types. We call it short-term, and it's free furnished for the first 4 months. And that is for the highest crisis cases. It's for family homelessness, it's often that, well, I'll get that in the next slide, but there's not that much open kind of camping, if you will. Usually coming from a situation, you were couch surfing and you couldn't do that anymore. You lost your lease and you don't know where to go. So we try not to have an unhoused situation for families. But those short terms are kind of units are kind of the high crisis. And then we have units that are transitional up to 2 years. And that families pay about $500 a month. And both of those are with lots of case management, resources, employment supports. We have dedicated children's case managers because the experience of losing your housing transmits to kids in a way that is heartbreaking. If you look at the data on it, it drives poor outcomes at school, health problems, long-term prospects for employment, et cetera, et cetera. So we really try and focus specific things. Are they signed up for after-school programs? Are they, we fund summer camps so that particularly during the summer, they have kind of an enrichment and not just a, shut at home while the parents are out working. And so we do a lot of work in the housing sites. The outcome that we look at is, did families successfully exit to stable and safe and affordable housing? Now, not affordable at 30% of income. We figure we do 50% of income but just basically affordable. And about over 80% of our families exit to successful housing. It may not be permanently affordable housing. It may be a mobile home. And we've saved up over 2 years. There are all kinds of different options, but it's a fairly good success rate given the challenges of housing in the community. So those are our 3 things: to prevent, to shelter, and then to try and have families that are going through homelessness have the appropriate space and time to figure a next move. So the next slide, please. So I just wanted to back up, I guess, a little bit to say, since we don't hear much about family homelessness, I just wanted to kind of situate it in this discussion. And first of all, how is it different from adult homelessness? Well, as I mentioned, it's less visible. You do not see families with kids out and about camping or, and it's as all of us would do, about 80% couch surf. If I lost my housing, I would be hitting up relatives and friends and where can we get a room? You're trying to protect your children in a safe situation. And that is where most of the homeless families are. About 15% are in some kind of program. It could be transitional housing, it could be domestic violence shelter. And then I think about 5 to 10 are actively unhoused. They're living, it might be an RV. Not many are camping. You don't find campsites of families with kids except in the summer up in Meadow. So they are, and because they're not visible, I think they receive a lot less public attention. It's not seen as a social problem as much for everyone else living here as it's their individual circumstance that they're living through. And another difference is for family homelessness, it is largely driven by economic factors. So about 3/4 of the time, it's because of economic factors, loss of a job, got my hours cut, had a sudden economic shock to the household, like a medical expense, raised the rent, and I can't afford it anymore. Suddenly my rent went up 40%, and you're packing your bags and trying to figure out where to go next. About 1/4 of the time, something happened to the family itself. So that's largely domestic violence, could be divorce, death of a spouse. You had 2 incomes, you only have one, and you're running. You have to leave where you are. It's also different, well, similar in sense, but it's homegrown. These are not families coming to Boulder that are unhoused and looking to stay here. This is largely the working class, low income households, and a higher proportion are from historically marginalized populations, particularly the Latinx population. I think our transitional housing, which is across the county, is about 70% Spanish-speaking households. As I mentioned, the periods of homelessness have lasting effects on children. And it actually is a predictor of adult homelessness, is whether you had an experience of homelessness as a child. So it has, it's not just solving an issue for now, it's investing in the well-being of our community over a lifetime or a couple generations. The other thing about what we're seeing right now is that community conditions are driving unprecedented increases in the number of families with children that are going homeless. The stats are pretty sobering. Before COVID, there were about 350 kids in BBSD because they register in the school districts through McKinney-Vento. If you lost your housing and are in unstable housing, there are about 350, and last school year it was 700 to 800. 700 to 800
When was it
children.
350?
Before COVID, so it's more than double. If you count little ones that are not in school yet, I think it's a safe assumption every year there's probably 500 children in the city of Boulder that will be considered in a family going through homelessness. And I just don't think that's really in our awareness, that level of what we're seeing. Just to give you another reason of what's driving this. In 2018, a family of 2 adults and 2 kids needed 2 minimum wage jobs to make ends meet in Boulder. And by 2022, they needed 4 minimum wage jobs. So it's not getting them to work. It's like they're working 3 or 4 jobs and they're not able to afford housing. So what can the city of Boulder do to address the situation? First, because of what we're seeing and just the incredible amount of people being evicted, running before they're evicted, in the sense of it doesn't show up in the eviction statistics because they don't want it on their record. So they just, if they can't pay, they just leave. And so it's like, well, there's not much of eviction. It's like, no, they're going to stay with a friend at the mobile home park, or there's 4 families in this apartment. It may not show up in evictions, actual evictions, but we need additional resources to meet the needs of temporary housing and expanded eviction prevention. the numbers that we have right now are just, and that's not just EFA, it's across the county and the safety net agencies, is just kind of overwhelming our resources. Second, to prioritize or at least consider families with children for affordable housing. It's not something that comes up much in the affordable housing conversations, like who those units are actually designed for. But families have different housing needs than individuals. They need more bedrooms. And so even having, sounds extravagant, a 3-bedroom place, but that's a family with 2 children of different genders as they grow up. So there are few larger number of bedroom units in the affordable housing pool, and not only in Boulder, but in Longmont as well. The numbers are harder to make it work. The cost, the rent that's charged is harder to afford for families. So it's just it's a challenge. The third point, preserve our market-based affordable housing, which is basically our mobile home parks. It's a deep sink of where families with kids that are on the edge of losing housing live. They're often doubled up and tripled up in those mobile home parks, but it is really where a lot of the families with kids live. And the last is there's just a whole bunch of land use and zoning issues that I'm not an expert on, but we bump up against, but you all are, about density, about occupancy, ADUs, you know, fast tracking affordable housing to be built. We've built some of our housing in just the amount of time it takes. And see,
I have no idea where you're driving.
exactly, it's shocking because we're not builders. We're just a, you know, nonprofit that provides the services. It's, you know, like there's a number of things on this on the land use and zoning side which would help speed up the production of low income housing or transitional housing or affordable housing for families. And then the last thing I would say is just be careful of policies that inadvertently increase housing costs. Things like even in the mobile home parks of policies to kind of upgrade mobile home parks. If it adds any more cost to the base of that renter, they're going to not be able to hang on to them. So there's a whole bunch of things you can do. And thank you. That's my.
Thank you. And that last point, would you be referring to something like energy upgrades or energy efficiency or?
Well, that might save
Yeah, that's true.
a renter on their energy bill. But like, I think it depends how it's structured.
Okay.
If it's passed on to the, it could be sometimes you own the lot and the unit, and sometimes you rent
Right.
one or the other. So kind of, you have to look into it and see what would actually happen to that.
Okay.
But certainly the private mobile home park management companies are able to pass on cost increases.
So Mike Block is up next. Your work, Mike?
It's Kurt. Well, I've actually given a lot of thought to what to say to you all. I think that the project that you're taking on is not unusual. At Michael Block services for 17 years and with all roads, I came to the shelter, cleaned up the donation shed, and knew nothing about homelessness. And here I find myself representing the needs of homeless people, which is a pretty big responsibility. So thanks for asking me to be here. But with what you're endeavoring in this sort of this exploration that you're going, it's not really unusual. So I just want to say that the lessons that I've learned have been taught to me over 17 years by thousands of homeless individuals and by making tons and tons of mistakes. And so, you know, I have a really, really positive message, but I also just want to really implore you to be really, really mindful that chronic homeless individuals die at an average age of 56 years old. So the decisions that make it to shelter are literally life and death, how we spend resources, how we're trying to organize ourselves, and the vision that we have. We're really mindful about that responsibility. And since you want to lend your voice to this and actually perhaps have an influence on council, I would really just ask you to be really, really careful, really mindful, and really feel that responsibility of that really life and death sort of landscape that the people up here are operating every day to their credit. I talk about homelessness a little bit differently, especially when I'm in a setting where I think I'm more talking about homeless systems than I am just about our organization, but they really sort of, the journey of our organization really lines up with the journey of our overall system and what we try to build in this community. And so we did start out as an emergency shelter. We called it Boulder Shelter for the Homeless. It's what we were known for. We're over 40 years old. And there was an evolution of us understanding about the limited efficacy of reacting on a night-to-night basis with a congregate setting. And that we tried to convince ourselves that this was the sort of center of homeless services. And I think through a process of critical thinking, we really started to question that. And that the promise of shelter beyond providing a night-to-night service, we had to wrestle with the notion that the promise of transformation that could occur in a shelter by applying certain standards and addressing people's pathologies and all of our best wishes and hopes to change people significantly and reliably were really, could not be really realized. And we started to question what we were doing. And it also dawned on us, by the way, that, you know, solid 30% of the homeless people who are suffering homelessness right now choose not to stay in congregate settings. And that's not endemic of our, you know, that's not an indictment of our particular shelter. This is sort of a national trend. Also, 2/3 of the chronic homeless, those who are most in need, don't use shelters regularly. Those who need us the most, those who are most at risk. Again, that is not an indictment of our shelter in particular, it's a system-wide. And so when you start to see, take a step back and look at these sort of big statistics and your big learning curves and really start to criticize and start to think differently about what you're doing, you start to ask a lot of hard questions. And you know, honestly, with the help of the city and with the county, and with a lot of sort of other people that challenged us and really almost provoked us to take a defensive stance, we really leaned in and tried to figure out what was a better approach than just simply trying to create what we might say is a shelter center or a congregate setting response. And so we've really sort of good news. Where we've landed is the concept that 90% of the homeless tell us, or in excess, want to be housed. I mean, that is really unbelievable. And we should listen to our clients, and we tend to not, right? Because we retreat to, oh, we can't house them, so let's do something else. That's what they're telling us they want. This study over the summer of the unsheltered homeless in Boulder County, in the city of Boulder, indicated 90% of these are the most impaired folks. These are encampments. These are the folks you think are the most unreachable, but they're telling us they want a house. So think of the people who are lower need, who've only been housed for a few days. What's their response? It's near 100%. So that's really powerful news. The second thing is all the data indicates that once you house someone, you get the best results. So what they want the most works the best. And further good news, it saves money. It's much cheaper to get someone housed really quickly than it is to have them in a congregate setting even. The per bed cost night at our shelter is about $35 a night. That's very close to the half payment contribution per night that Boulder Housing Partners pays out to landlords. So it's no more cost effective to put someone in a shelter than it is to put them in a house. So we started to ask ourselves this question. So what now is our role? We start to question 40 years of sheltering history. Where do we go with this? And how do we leverage this amazing information that what they want the most works the best and it saves money? Well, luckily, the city was sort of, and the county were sort of taking this sort of similar journey and asking themselves a similar question. And this sort of, the symmetry sort of, which there was this alignment and sort of a purpose to try and have a higher aspiration. And the good news is that, you know, we really know that we can solve homelessness. And we've been unbelievably successful at solving homelessness for individuals, and we haven't yet solved homelessness for communities simply because the problem is overwhelming. So the success that we've had over the last 8 years since we've made this major change in the philosophical approach has been amazing, but no one in the community feels that way because to our eyes and to our heads, the problem doesn't seem to be getting better, which probably energizes why you're asking this question and what your role is to begin with, right? So, but the really good news is that the system that we've developed and your staff have done all the work, and we've created this process, and it starts with the principle. The principle is housing first, and housing first is really, really simple, right? It's this notion that whatever we have in our lives, we need the basic things first. So when I think of my housing, and I think of all the ways that I support my daughter, myself, and our well-being, and all the things that I would give up before housing is pretty much the last thing I would give up. Right. So it makes perfect sense that if you want to restore someone's well-being, you would restore the housing first, right? I mean, it's the most simple way to think about it. And I don't expect, by the way, housing to solve all of my problems. Right. I don't have a whole lot of problems, but I will. I will have pathologies, and I'm going to be really, really happy that I'm housed. And so again, the same principles apply here. If you provide a housing first, then the notion of building up your well-being from a stable foundation of housing is much more attainable than from a congregate setting, for instance. So we really embrace this philosophy. Then, okay, so if you embrace this philosophy, you accept this notion that every homeless person is really a housing project, so to speak. They tell us that's what they want, so let's join them in this project, right? Then what systems do you have to build in order to get there? And it's really, really simple, actually, right? And so this is what we do with Kurt and Megan and their great team and the county. Every day, this is what we think about. We have to have there are really 4 parts of the system. We have a 4-legged stool.
Chair.
A chair. The first leg, or the first wheel of the bus, as I like to say, is you have to have services that engage with people. And wherever homeless are, you can be part of a housing-focused engagement system. It's bringing knowledge about housing to the clients, right? Bringing that expertise to them. They're not experts on our complicated system. That is all these hoops that you need to jump through. We need to bring engagement right to the ground at shelters, in libraries, and hospitals. And we need to bring the expertise about the system, the housing system, housing resources to them. Okay. The second wheel of the bus is you have to have rent affordability, whatever that looks like. Now, when I was young and I didn't have any income, I was living with my parents, and the rent was very affordable. That's affordable rent, right? So relationships can provide affordable rent, earned income can provide affordable rent, vouchers can provide affordable rent. But if the rent's not affordable, you can't help somebody. Okay? The third wheel of the bus is durable assets. They have to have a place to live. Now, again, that can be reunifying someone. That's housing first. If we meet someone and they have a mother who wants to take them back in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we confirm this information, we give them a bus ticket, and they go live with their mother. The rent's affordable, right? We've engaged with them, the rent's affordable, there's a durable asset, and their support when they get there, housing first, really cheap, it's the price of a bus ticket. So, but you have to have that third wheel of the bus, the durable asset. So that can be a private landlord, that can be a bus ticket to Tulsa, that can be dedicated resources for the homeless, like at Lee Hill or at Hilltop or at Bluebird, or a new project called Zinnia in Longmont, right? But you have to have durable assets. And once a person gets to their home, there has to be some sort of resource of support. Now, depending on the acuity of need of an individual, maybe they don't need any support, or maybe their community just is there to support them. Or maybe we can provide a case manager who gives relatively consistent support and is really focused on their stability. You have a higher acuity of need. And so if you apply this principle to anyone who's homeless, you can solve the homelessness. So our job is really to what parts of the systems need resources, because the more we resource the 4 wheels, the farther the bus is going to roll. So the good news is they've built the bus. And if I can sort of share anything with you about what impact your voice can have to this, is trust your staff. They're really good at their jobs. They've built a great system. They built the bus, and encourage us to resource the bus, to give it gas so it can travel really, really far. And that's what I wanted to say to you. I mean, we can add ask questions, but that's what we're doing. Our vision is to partner with the city and with the county to be supportive of that system. We have elements in our programming of all 4 wheels. And the more resources we get, we can effectively move the bus farther, right? So we have engagement resources at the shelter, we have outreach teams, right? We have partnerships that provide rental assistance. We're working for more and more durable assets as best we can in all sorts of different mechanisms. And we provide tons and tons of support services. It's really great news, because In 2016, I think we housed 38 people. Right? And as an organization, we are hands on the housing of 200 people last year. So this is all the result of this collaboration and really trying to break down what works the best and how do we create a system that can sort of power our housing efforts and then resourcing it. And so, we've gone from 30,000 bed nights and we're heading towards 170,000 bed nights by the end of 2025 by applying this system in a systematic way. And it works for everyone virtually. So let's say 95% of the homeless say they want to be housed. So we can solve it through systems like this. And that's how the VA is making progress. 50% reduction in homelessness in the last 10 years. That's how Houston has reduced street homelessness 70% in the last 7 years. That's how Finland did it. They solved homelessness in Finland, very contained sort of subpopulation example. And so, we could talk about the details. But I'm really proud of us. I'm really proud of the shelter. Roads, sorry, we just were rebranded, so forgive me. And I'm really proud of the city because they make really tough decisions about resources because they're really the ones who are in charge of choosing the good from the best. And so the last thing I want to leave you with in terms of this journey that I think you're on, because I talked to so many people who are on the same journey, is there's something I call the program trap. That this narrative that we're just one program away from making this monumental step. And we've seen other groups of folks study the problem and really focus on what programming we can add to make us more robust or have these major progress. Trust your staff. They're really good at it. And they have the unenviable task in a landscape defined by scarcity of choosing between what's good and what's best. And so they're really good at that. We can't do everything. And so when they're examining programming, when I'm examining programming, my job is like, what is the unique data points around a certain program that I'm going to compare those data points against this data point and this data point, because we don't have enough resources to do what's just good. We have to honor the suffering of the people who are out there by doing the best we can. And so I'll leave you with one brief example. So the hospital came to us, they were very concerned about utilization of the emergency room by homeless people. And by proxy, these are the people who are the most at risk, right? People are coming to the emergency room over and over and over and over again. And nothing they did worked. They did things. They put case managers out on the street. They did street outreach. They did street medicine. They did medicine. We've been doing medical provision at our shelter for a long time. Nothing worked. And so they said, well, what do you think we could do? I said, well, you really have to have a program that tries to create access, that first wheel of the bus for this unique clientele. We have to bring that expertise to your high utilization list. And they said, great, how do we pay for that? And so I was on a run and I bumped into a friend of mine whose grandfather was Oscar Mayer. And she said, great, let's fund that. And so $50,000 later, we had, about half-time, basically 2/3 time case manager go into the hospital and bring the expertise about the system to the high utilizer list. In the first year, he housed 15 people. These are the most impaired, okay, the highest utilizers, the ones facing the greatest challenges, 80 visits a year to the ER, like tragic stuff. ER utilization went down 83% for those individuals we housed. Why wasn't it 20 people? Why wasn't it 25? Because the system doesn't have enough resources. So that's the message. That's what we're trying to accomplish. We are absolutely convinced that anybody we meet, if we have the right resources and the right system, that we can solve their homelessness really reliably with the best, truly gets the best outcomes. There you go.
Mike. So Laura, she's going to present from Boulder Housing Partners.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Laura Shandam. I am a Chief Real Estate Officer for BHP. Boulder Housing Partners, as you may or may not know, is the housing authority for the city of Boulder. So we're a quasi-governmental organization, been around since 1966. And we have a three-part stool, really. We develop housing. So that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. I have some more good news to kind of partner up with Mike's good news here. We do property management and maintain and own all of our units in perpetuity. We have a housing choice voucher program as well. So we have quite a bit of activity in the community. We touch a lot of the programs that you guys are running, and I can't say enough about the work that you're doing. It's really powerful and important, and thank you for doing all of that. My job specifically is to build housing. So when we talk about what is needed, it seems like there's some consensus here that more housing is going to help in this issue, whether it's housing first or just housing in general. I think that there is quite a bit of mobility through the housing spectrum if you can just get more housing. So on the whiteboard in my office, my essential goal is more housing, period. So whether that is a permanently supported housing unit, or if that is family housing, or if that is a studio apartment somewhere, that is our goal, is to have more housing, because that choice is going to provide for a lot of different opportunity to partner and to alleviate some of the suffering that we're seeing associated with homelessness and just affordability in general. So before we get into this, I just, again, just some stats about BHP. I didn't bring them here. Sorry, there's probably blanking on the fact that maybe you don't know us. So we operate in the city exclusively. We have about 1,600 units currently that we own and manage. We have 233 apartments at 3 different housing sites under construction, Hilltop being one of them that was mentioned earlier. Raleigh is another one, which is over where the former Raleigh Sport Health Club was, 100 units there. And then over by the Diagonal Plaza, we are got some land there with through the city and partnered there with Trammell Crow Residential, and so we've got 73 units under construction there. So a lot coming online really soon. We also, more good news is that development begets development. So we have a huge pipeline of land that we've been able to land bank over the course of the past several years. So as we get through these projects, we have other ones that are coming up right behind us. So we have Alpine Balsam that's coming. We have land over housing over at the Geological Society of America at Penrose. So there's quite a bit. We've got another about 700 units that we have our eyes on to help in this community. So that's really good news. You know, more units, more housing. That's all going to alleviate some of the strain that we're feeling with the issue of homelessness. Last year we served 4,393 individuals, and we served, and you know, if you break that into a household, it's 2,495 households, which includes both our voucher program and the housing that we own and manage. So we're doing a lot. We're trying to meet some of these very specific needs as well around PSH, and so we're going to talk a little bit case study about Lee Hill, which was sort of the first permanently supported housing site in Boulder, and then some of the other tactics that we're using to specifically work with providing more units to the specific population to help some of the issues that we're hearing about tonight. Okay, next slide. Thanks. We've kind of gone through this. Megan talked a little bit about this at first. So housing first, we've heard quite a bit about that, but it's just a way that we can really look to, get somebody housed with services. Permanently supported housing, we have a little bit of a different spin, not spin, but just maybe it's targeted a little bit differently. But generally, I think we're all talking about the same thing, which is some sort of permanent housing solution for somebody is what is going to help, and it's what people want. So we're meeting them where they are. Next slide, please. So we have partnerships, and we work with Allroads quite a bit. And these are some of the sites where we have dedicated units for folks exiting homelessness. Holiday, established in 2004. We have 10 units there. We have scattered sites that were established in 2006. Lee Hill was our first sort of, they're independent living units, 31 outright apartments. And I'll bring some more information about that on some future slides. We have working with the City of Boulder on these vouchers. 30 Pearl is integrated permanently supportive housing and housing that is 100% affordable, but we have units that are available only exclusively with vouchers for folks that are exiting homelessness. And we consider that sort of integrated permanently supportive housing. Our thought there was that we would, if we're building it, instead of going through some of the if we're building something, we should make sure that we're integrating this particular type of housing for these particular populations. For Hilltop, that's going to be future income restricted, or I'm sorry, age restricted. So adult populations 62 plus. As Mike mentioned, a lot of folks that are experiencing homelessness or at risk of experiencing homelessness are in that sort of older adult age range. And so we have 15 units of 60 that will be dedicated for folks that are either currently homeless or experiencing a risk of homelessness. Raleigh Flats, which is where we're building 100 units, 10 to 10% of those that will be dedicated again for permanently supportive housing. Then Hawthorne Court, I'm happy to say, is larger size units that will be dedicated for families that or at risk of experiencing homelessness. So that will have 2 and 3 bedroom units that will be dedicated for that particular.
When is it opening?
We summer of 2025. So it's drawn up, and if you want to go, but those 3 are all under construction right now and have different occupancy dates. But this fall for Hilltop, Raleigh will be March 2025, and Hawthorne Court 2020, July, August 2025. So going back to Lee Hill, this is 31 units. It's at the corner of Lee Hill and Broadway, right by our office, right nearby the shelter. We have collaborated with All Roads, Shelter for the Homeless, on the site for a long time. It's been open for about 10 years. And then just some other requirements, the residents are exiting chronic homelessness, residing with disability. Next slide. So this is pretty fun, not fun, but hopeful information, maybe it's a better word, but just a number of years that people have been able to live with us there, and this should have been labeled psychologies, but along the bottom axis are years, and along the other axis you've got number of residents, but this is kind of just indicating how many years people have been able to live successfully there. It's just, once they're coming in, it's been a really successful living situation for many, not all, but for many. So next slide. Program exits. So again, just speaking to how successful this is, we have 51 total exits over the course of the existence of the property, 34 successful, 17 successful. You can see there, successful exit includes moving into a different type of permanent housing or passing away. You might think, why would passing away be a successful exit? But that person who may have passed away housed, and safe and secure community. So that is considered a successful exit. So again, you can just see that way better. We had maybe a little bit of a rough start, but as years have progressed, we've gotten a lot more stable at the location and at Lee Hill, and it's been calls for service. So I think more importantly, 0 neighbor complaints, and then calls for service are, there's a variety of things that is, there are things that happen, but for the most part, we're seeing too many issues at the property that would get the neighbors upset. And this is important. I think one of the questions that came through from Kurt earlier today that this board had asked about was NIMBY. And the Lee Hill site had a very rocky start. They had a big community meeting before it even progressed, and a lot of neighborhood anxiety about this location and what its intended use was. And we're really happy to say that we have 0 neighbor complaints now, and we have a very collaborative relationship with the neighborhood. So it's been a really positive over the years. So it started off rough, and as you can see today, we've got 0 neighbor complaints. So that's really good. Program goals. I'm out of my element here. I'm a developer, so forgive me for not being a little bit more articulate about some of this stuff. If Lyndall Ellington's here, she'd be so much better. But you got me. So residence ability, skills and income self-determination. Those are all things that we see as really important here, see a lot of good progress on all of these things when folks come in and start looking. So we hope. I'm not going to read that all to you, but the 2023 annual report, you know, we do sort of get very specific about this one property. Every year we have an annual report for our entire portfolio, but I think this one is, it's important to make sure that the community is understanding that, you know, we have a pretty broad age range, but not as low as you might think. So 41 to 83 is sort of the ages there. We do house both men and women. Zero, as you said, neighbor complaints. There are some calls for service. We have 8 original residents who've been housed successfully for 10 years, which is great. Have a lot of partners that work there, work with us there. We'll to make sure that all of that is, the services are in place to make sure that we are doing what we need to do. I will say, in terms of developing this type of housing, though, I mean, the resources are really important. So I'll sort of piggyback a little bit on what Mike said, is the resources, they're extensive in terms of what we need to make this kind of housing move forward. And so, you know, gap financing, the tax credit program, all of those things to fund the $500 to, you know, $700,000 it takes to make these things move forward. It's critical, and I don't want to say it's non-negotiable, but it's just given where we are in our community with the land costs and the construction costs and interest rates and the different factors that go into putting a deal together. It's hard to avoid what that cost is. And I actually haven't found a way. I think about this stuff all the time. So that's just sort of the reality. It costs a lot of money, and the resources that we partner with the city to receive to help gap finance these, plus the tax credit program that we tap to make sure that those resources are coming in, are critical. WeHo was fortunate. I don't know. I'm sure we could not do this today, but we have no debt on this property. So we were able to fund all of the construction through, we had a construction loan, but we were able to then pay that off and utilize tax credit equity and different other grant funding sources to be able to have a debt-free project going forward, which enables sort of the high cost of service provision and things like that to be able to support the residents and then operating expenses to keep the property running. Next slide. But yeah, we are building fast and furious. I would say, what can be done to help? You know, I heard a lot of really great suggestions tonight. I think more housing, again, regardless of whether it's specific to PSH or general, but if it's deep restricted affordable housing, the capital A, capital H is, I think, critical. There are ways that we can probably streamline that process. It's really hard. I mean, entitling anything, building something, finding resources to be able to do it is, you know, it's a game of Twister every single time you do these deals. And, you know, pinky on purple and your elbow back on green and your big toe on blue or whatever it is. You contort to make it work. And I think anything that can be done within the city to trust that the folks that are, you know, sort of in the trenches doing the work, whether it's me building something or EFA doing the work that they're doing, Bridge House, All Roads, the city, there are really talented people, really dedicated people who are doing this. And I can't say enough, like, yes, there's probably always a shiny new toy out there or a shiny new something, but we're doing the work and we're getting there. It just takes money. And when I say resources, I mean money. I mean, there's no real way to get around it. Land is great, but when it comes down to it, we need money to stand these buildings up. We need money to provide the services that are helping the people live successfully in the units that we are living. So resources are critical. And I'm happy to answer questions. Oh, and I did get one really good, somebody asked about a success story. This one's awesome. We have a gentleman who's been living at WeHo for a long time. Mike, I'm sure you can speak to this better than I could, but he has Parkinson's, and a few years ago started doing working with bicycles, and because he no longer felt safe driving a car, he started sort of a business around and working on electric and gas engines for motorized bicycles. And as of this report today from Lyndall Allenson, who works with Parkinson's symptoms have started to reverse. And so his stable housing plus work has created a situation where his health is getting better with something that is really, as I think we all know, Parkinson's is not something that we generally see reversible. So anyway, I thought that was somebody asked, and it was a great sort of very put a point on it. He was successfully housed, was able to then find meaningful work within his community and his reverse health situation.
So last summer, I was driving through Boulder, and when people visit me from out of town, I always give them an affordable housing tour. And half the cranes in our city were building affordable housing. And I thought that was pretty amazing. And so I'm lucky enough to interact with these individuals and these organizations on a regular basis, but I'm blown away with these presentations, so thank you.
You can do it.
So you've answered some of these questions along the way, luckily, because it took you all to get here. So I'm gonna try to weave through some of the things that we could still look at. So some of you touched on this a little bit, but there was a question here about how organizations that do this work, how do they collaborate? The question assumed that there wasn't collaboration. And so you can maybe talk to how that is or how that isn't. Maybe I'll start off with Mike and Megan. Megan works particularly with adult homelessness. Virtually all the organizations in our city, particularly ones that receive city funding in some way. But maybe you could talk about that or any changes around that you've seen. And then Mike, and I've got some other questions that I'll run down the line here.
Sure. I think, I don't know if y'all are familiar, but with both the housing authorities, the city of Longmont, city of Boulder County provides homeless solutions for Boulder County, which is a system-wide strategic effort towards this issue. And so not only do we set strategy around things on either services or housing or things we need going forward, but a big piece of it is coordinating the providers. And so there's a number of meetings, and Boulder is always a good time because it's such a small space that it's oftentimes the same people. And so we meet at least once or twice a week in different capacities. So it's to coordinate the outreach services, or it's to coordinate who's getting connected to what housing resource and what housing resource is most appropriate. So does this person need PSH, or do they need transitional housing? So those conversations absolutely happen regularly. And also what I find doing this work in different communities in Boulder, having the really by name conversations. Like we are talking about John Smith and where the group thinks with their input, what they want, where we could best help them. So it is I don't think one organization could do it alone. And so it really is a strategic effort that people coordinate and collaborate.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing community this way. I mean, it's small. I mean, we know everybody, and it would not be the same. It would be so much harder in a bigger metropolitan area. I can call the police chief and see him tomorrow. It's just unique. I can call the sheriff. I know him by first name. Known him for 10 years. We can leverage those relationships. We do all the time. Just on the phone with the director of Mental Health Partners Housing. This is happening in informal ways and informal ways all the time. And I think what's really, really exciting is that before we had an opportunity to provide sort of the housing fuel to all of these relationships, we all knew each other, but we were all still doing our own individual things because I think we were the product of an environment that really did not really view housing as a very frequent opportunity. But now as the system becomes more resourced, we see so many parts of the system adjust their activities to support the housing activity, because they all realize that this is so key to a person's stability. So if you're interested in a reentry program, there's a nonprofit that was doing reentry mentoring. And in the midst of them sort of realizing that their mentoring program wasn't very reliable, they became aware of this emerging housing effort. And all of a sudden they're changing everything they do to be part of the housing effort, because they realize that getting a person housed first when they're reentering from the jail is the best way to stabilize the person and then get them to where they need to be to increase their well-being. So not only do we see this sort of collaborative network really functioning and operating in a very systematic way, as we put more resources, it becomes more effective, right? And so I'll give you the sort of perfect example. I think as a shelter, we'd be housed in December 2023, we housed, I think, 8 people. So it was pretty light month for us. So our interventions resulted in 8 people being housed throughout our system. Fast forward 1 month, 60. So again, why? Same people, same system, same expertise, same dedication, same compassion, same amount of collaboration. The only difference was that we opened Bluebird, primarily opened Bluebird in January. And so the system is really primed. It sort of shows the efficacy of all this work and all this effort, that when when you sort of, the way to leverage all this collaboration, all this effort we've made to get everybody on the same page and talking and communicating and working off lists and really coordinating our efforts, it really pays off when we leverage that with more housing resources. And so, yeah, it works really well, and it's really exciting.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
I think the one thing that the city has done really well is bringing resources to the table so that we all know what the other person is doing, what other nonprofits are doing. The path into homelessness is best. Many people end up homeless for many, many different reasons, and it takes more paths out of homeless to get somebody housed. I mean, ultimately, to end homelessness, everybody needs to be housed, but how we get them to that housing position looks different for every individual experiencing homelessness. So everybody sitting at the table and all the hard work that we're doing is only part of the solution. We need, folks at the table for the elderly that are getting pushed into homelessness due to economic reasons. We need people that focus on youth that are timing out of foster care. And I think the ability for the city to put together all those resources in a kind of one-stop shop is hugely important to the success of changing that dial in homelessness.
Thank you. So listen, Julie, can you maybe talk about the funding landscape right now, what that looks like, what it's been the last 2 or 3 years, and what it looks like from your viewpoint moving forward around the programs that you're supporting? And
Sure, want to go first? Either way. The funding landscape at ANFA, we have a budget of about $10 million a year, and that includes the food that's donated to the food banks and the value of that. And what we're seeing right now is we had a steep increase in funding in response to COVID, both from public and private. Private, initially, people stepped up, they wanted to help their neighbors. There was a lot of individual donations, and that is the base of ANFA's funding. We have about 60% of our money comes from individual donors in our community. And that's a testament, that's unusual. And it's a testament to the 100 years in this community. So the next phase of funding was kind of all the acronym, the ARPA, the CARES Act, all the COVID money started coming through. And a lot of that was helping with rental assistance to keep people from being unhoused. And that is now tapering off. So just the numbers, like we gave out before COVID about $900,000 a year in financial assistance. And that's 90% rent. Let's just call it rent. We do some other utilities and medical, but so a little under $1 million pre-COVID, went up to about 3.5 million at the peak of COVID. And last year it was 3.2, and this year it'll be 2.5 million, 2.7 million.
So it took $500,000 out of our rental assistance budget, which is painful. We took maximum amounts from 1,000 to 800. So we see a contraction that is resetting at a higher level than prior to the pandemic, but it's certainly not enough to meet the need of the inflation period that we're living through. So we get a lot of money from the city. I hate to even add it up and tell you. But we get, I don't know, maybe like a little under $1 million, maybe all.
That's
in.
about right, yeah.
Yeah, but that includes things like the Health Equity Fund, where we purchase meals from Bridge House, the frozen meals that we distribute in the food banks. We have a great partnership with them, with Community Table. So, and hopefully that is stable. It's been increased, the rental, Keep Families House increased last year. So that's a very core kind of funding to stabilize those programs.
And I agree with Julie, during COVID, private and cities and counties, state, the funding increased pretty drastically. There was ways to protect your payroll and, that funding was amazing and did well during COVID, when really business was, everybody was really worried. We didn't really know what was going to happen with the economy. We are seeing a lot of that support taper off. But I think, and this goes with foundations and different granting opportunities, some of that COVID funding is drying out and then there's time. So if you receive some funding, you have to use it all up by middle of 2025 and 2026, depending on what grants you received. But I think the exciting piece is that the federal government and the states, cities, counties are identifying homelessness as a place to put resources. So we are seeing some increase in resources for homeless services, people coming out of DOC, addiction, mental health. There are more resources put in place there, but there are a lot more nonprofits that are asking for that funding. So funding is very scarce. So for us, we're unique in that we can try to earn some of our funding, and finding different contracts and different ways to earn that money is crucial, but also difficult because cities have budget cuts as well. Economy is, inflation is through the roof. It's costs more to even operate. So for catering, the cost of goods has gone up. So funding, I think every nonprofit can honestly say, if you're going to ask me what makes me lose sleep at night, it's funding, to make sure that we can keep our doors open, and make sure that we are offering, the program that we're able to offer. But we're working hard on the side of working with stakeholders to put more resources into the bucket so that more nonprofits can pull from those resources to help sustain operations. But funding is very tricky to this age.
I said two things listening to you. One is their family homelessness is a little different because HUD doesn't consider a family with children that are couch surfing homeless. And so a lot of the resources that come through the big HUD pipes are oriented exclusively to either vets or adult individuals. It's not quite the same funding landscape. And then another thing I'll mention that people don't often realize, of the, to say $3 million in rental assistance we give a year, think about 500,000 goes to Boulder Housing Partners to keep people from losing their affordable housing. So we're always trying to prevent that. And so I think sometimes we think, oh, you build it and you're just done. If they're going to be fine, they're okay. And it's quite expensive to keep people in affordable housing because they have a shock. They have a cut in hours, they have something happens and they still have to pay a percentage. And I don't think people realize that. That's a big chunk of what we want to make sure.
And just, for sure. But so I just want to also be clear, like BHP, while we have like grant resources that come in to support the construction that we do, we are self-sufficient in terms of the rent that we charge. So we're just like a private landlord that has to keep the lights on, who has to pay the maintenance guy, who has to turn a unit, all those types of property management functions. And so there's no subsidy that comes in from the federal government for the city. So that is all, we buy down our rents by putting equity in at the front end of our development cycle. And then when we have a property, we have a lower rent to charge, but we need that rent. And so we can't afford as a landlord, it rocks the entire system, so to speak, of affordable housing, you know, to be there for everybody if we don't get the rent in to support the debt payments that we need to make on that property. So yeah.
I have a question, and Julie, I don't know if we've met before. I do eviction defense work at the Justice Center through the Everest program.
I'm sure.
I feel like I've seen you before. But you know, Boulder Housing Partners is, I believe, the largest landlord in Boulder. Is that right? It could be.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, they lease to low-income people, so it's not surprising that it's probably one of the biggest landlords that evicts people in Boulder too. And that's, as you're explaining, that's just the reality. If you're a public housing authority, you never evict anyone, then you're gonna have no money to keep doing what you do. But I do wonder, does Boulder Housing Partners put people in touch with community resources before it actually starts the eviction process?
Oh, yeah, we have each other on speed dial.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and
We work
Yeah.
very closely together with BHP. And
Because you said something to me that's very interesting, which is that a lot of people don't like get captured in the statistics because they become homeless, but the eviction's never actually filed. And the reason for that is the procedure to evict someone typically involves the landlord posting a demand on the door saying you have 10 days, or in the case of a property that's received some sort of HUD financing, 30 days to pay or move out. And that's just a piece of paper. It doesn't get filed with the court. If the tenant doesn't comply with that, the next step, and again, this is the typical process, there's plenty of exceptions. The next step after that is for the landlord to file the eviction with the court. That allows it to get captured by the court system. We have people in the city of Boulder who review the court dockets, reach out to those people with resources. But the way I view it, you know, working with a lot of people in court is, you know, only half of people get served with an eviction summons typically even show up. And I know there must be so many people who get a demand on their door who just, it says literally, you shall pay or move out by this date. Some of them just move out and they never get even picked up by the eviction process. And I do wonder, how do we help those people? Because I always think of, you know, the immigrant family or whatever from Central America who's not familiar with our legal system. They may be terrified to show up at a court thinking something horrible could happen to them. No one goes to jail for being evicted, but people don't always recognize that or appreciate that. And if they get a legal demand on their door, maybe they think I have to go live on the streets now, and they're not captured by the social services that our community provides to people who go through the eviction process. So, you know, I'm just curious, what do you guys do to sort of reach out to those people? Sounds like BHP government org works with you, but not all landlords do.
But most landlords know us
Yep.
because they'll say, go get.
Well, because they want to get paid.
They wanna get
They
paid.
would like that
Yeah,
extra
yeah.
money too.
And we sit on various coordinating bodies with Barha and, you know, we have, I think we're pretty well known, particularly of the mobile home park management agencies. And if you have a 10-day notice, so you're not at court yet,
Yeah.
right? You call EFA and you'll get the quickest appointment. But most of our, I think it's about 80% of our appointments are not those emergencies. So someone's like, I am not gonna be able to make rent this month. They'll call, they'll say, look, my rent's due in 3 weeks. Try and get in. We have a long, we're trying to process people as fast as possible. But if there is, to keep them from going to court, you can get an emergency appointment. And we also work with the city on EPRIS before the court. So the funding that we work with the city is to keep that court date from happening. And that maybe what you're seeing is at the court or when they're.
Well, right, because the thought I have is once the eviction complaint is filed and the summons is served, the landlord starts incurring attorney fees. And I sort of think of it, and then they get matched with funding, but the landlord, and you know, the case of BHP, is already spending money on lawyers. And it's like, could we have done this in a more efficient way? Also, could we have connected the tenant with resources well before a big balance grows, you know, an unmanageable balance? You know, if it's just 1 month's rent and they can get help with that, and then they get their job and it's good, there's more money in the pot to help other people. So under our state law, when an eviction summons is served, again, this is when the complaint's been filed, lawyers have been hired, they have to, a landlord has to include resources, and F is one of the ones listed.
Yep.
That's not a requirement for when the initial demand is posted. And, you know, you said landlords know about you,
Well, I
but
hope, I mean, even like Bridges to Justice, I mean, I hope that people know enough about EFA. I mean, we do a lot of outreach and
there's a lot of outreach,
So,
but
I don't know.
that could be affixed to state law, which is that resource page that goes in step 2 should just be
Oh, on
attached
the
to the
demand
initial
itself.
demand, that here's all the resources you can get. I don't think the city has the power to regulate that. That's by state law. I don't know if there'd really be opposition to that, because the landlords would like if people got connected with resources earlier too. But I do think the city could make EFA do that, or ask their lawyers to do, or excuse me, BHP, which is, can you, when you post an eviction demand on the door, can you also include with it, or on the back of it, all of the resources that are available to the tenant? And they now have this 30-day period or 10-day period before an eviction's even filed against them. We're saying you got to pay or move out. Here's a list of resources, you know, EFA or what have you, CDP, that they can talk to. So I don't know, that was just a thought. I always wonder, you know, I'm dealing with it once we're in court and that ship has sailed, but you know, what efforts can be done to educate people on the front end? Because the way I view it is, when someone is facing eviction, that's sort of the last part. I don't work with many people who are homeless. I work with a lot of people though who are unfortunately are about to be homeless. And I think, like you said, housing, if we can house them, that stops things before a lot of problems can happen.
So Mike, can you add something to that?
Yeah, so I'll be the annoying guy who pulls us back into the whole system framework, right? Because when we're talking about engagement services, making the rental available, providing durable assets and tenant supportive services, what you're really talking about is this fourth wheel of the bus, tenant supportive services. So BHP actually does a really good job of trying to build robust tenant supportive services. They're hampered by a lack of resources. They have a tenant supportive team. It's called resident services. But their job is to engage with people who are having trouble, history of not paying rent, behavioral issues, to get in front of that whole eviction process. So I just want to relate your very astute observation about how it fits into the system that we're trying to build more robustly, so that those services are available to people in all sorts of forms. But most importantly, someone who's there to knock on their door to say, you know, well, we're here to help, sort of, you know, too much of a catchphrase, but I think you know what I mean. Also, as it relates to Laura's suggestion that they can provide the asset, but they don't always have the resources to provide the rent affordability and the rent stability. So again, how do we look at that as a system? Well, we have to have robust resources to keep the rent affordable, whether that's 1 or 2 time interventions a year, or whether that's a voucher for people to keep them rent stable. Again, I just wanted to point out that as we talk about these systems and the gaps in them, we can relate to them within this framework of the system that we're trying to sort of build together.
So one of the earlier questions was about collaboration. So I think you all answered it in different ways. So thank you. I'll just also add on that the city and All Roads started a program, I think a year and a half ago. It's as a housing retention team. So working with individuals that we know are at risk, assigning them, you know, case management, help with, you know, medical concerns, you know, someone who's a hoarder, helping them, you know, with that, helping them maintain their lease, understanding what they need to do to be successful as a tenant. But it also has a peer support aspect to it. So connecting them with other individuals who have gotten through homelessness successfully and helping them build positive networks and relationships that help them in that transition to housing. So there's a lot of coordination on getting people into housing, and there's a lot of coordination once they're housed as well. And I think we have a 95% retention rate with the housing retention team over the last 18 months. And those are the most difficult individuals. I think we're gonna try to wrap up my set of the questions.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is this a good time for the board to start jumping in with more questions?
Absolutely.
Chip has already gotten off.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just thinking through some of these things. I
So,
appreciate
um,
the answers.
Wow, I gotta say, your presentations were wonderful and the slides were extremely well presented. I scribbled tons of notes. The focus, and the reason we asked you to come primarily is to figure out how to make some of the solutions more affordable. Now, we had hoped to have Catherine Bean from Element here tonight. We have a nice representation of different organizations, government and non-government. I think one of the lessons learned is that any kind of organization can do this, even including a nonprofit developer. So how can we help more it happen? Now, I'm going to quote a couple of things from this article about Bluebird that ran in the Boulder Housing Network. It's a $20 million project. The capital stack was really impressive. The city of Boulder contributed $3 million to buy the land. Boulder County contributed $500,000 in construction costs. There were federal low-income tax credits, Colorado state affordable housing tax credits, CAFA private activity bonds, and Colorado Division of Housing funds. With all that, it's a $20 million project providing 40 apartments. And as Karen Clearman, our vice chair here, keeps on hitting on, it's $500,000 a door, and that's an expensive housing solution. When we, in part of our research, was involved touring the Veterans Community Project last month. It's 26 transitional homes being built in Longmont. 5 are built so far. They do provide services as well, but the cost per dwelling is about $60,000. That was pretty impressive. They were nice units. We saw them. Getting to the questions, this is for Julie. Does EFA own any of the apartments that you mentioned? And can you talk a little bit about how financially you were able to make that happen?
So we own all of them and they're all debt free, and it's been since 1970, so it's been a while, but it's been a combination of things. We were given a building in June by the city. We've been operating it for many, many years and renting it for $1. So they transferred the title. Thank you. Up on.
I'm sorry, which building is that?
Echo House is up on the hill on Marine Street. It's our first housing. But we've gotten funding through capital campaigns, some grants over the years. We worked with Homemade when we built a 5-unit site up in North Boulder that they bring in donations from the building trades, including like the contractor and main. It was about 30% of the cost was donated. So we've gotten all kinds of things. We bought a building up in Netherland with cash because the couple was retiring and they wanted to make sure their old hotel up there remained for social housing, and they gave us a good price. And we had enough cash in the bank. That's what we've done in many, many ways. We don't have.
Role.
Huh?
That's a very active role.
Yeah. So but we don't have any debt on our building.
Right. That's great. For Mike Block, Michael. So All Rose is involved in managing the permanent housing at Bluebird and Lido, correct? Are there any plans as you move forward towards this new model to become housing developers, operators in your own right?
That's not complete fifth, but
Sorry if that's
it's, I think that, our initial or our instinct is to do this through collaboration and partnership because it's worked in the past. I mean, so whether it's with BHP or whether it's with Element Properties. And so, for us to be able to develop, no pun intended, development expertise would be, significantly out of our lane when that expertise exists in the community already. We're wrestling right now whether we want to have a stake in those developments, and we're being challenged to sort of wrestle with that suggestion. But I wouldn't say that as a unique developer to try and take on the skill sets that, for instance, that Laura manages like that, that would be a big journey for us and a departure from, I think, you know, if those resources exist in the community effectively through collaboration, it doesn't inspire me to use limited resources that we have in order to go in that direction.
But it could be expanded partnership role from what.
But we want to do more
Extrapolating.
those types of projects for sure. And you know, we wrestle with this notion of the per door cost, right? Because there's an aggregate per door cost, but what's the local investment? And this is one of the most, you know, exciting things about looking at expanding our impact through housing, through housing development and partnering on housing developments is, you know, the net contribution from the city was $2 million, right? Because the project had to pay $1 million in fees back to the city. So that's $50,000 a door of investment. Like, I don't know how you can do it cheaper. So the cost is $500,000 a unit, 40 units, $20 million. But the leverage that we're able to generate at $50,000 a door is unmatched, right? And I can't create that sort of leverage in any other program that we run, right? So, and to give that some context, $3 million approximately to run our overnight shelter. It's an emergency room of the homeless service system. It's unbelievably important. I would never suggest we don't have emergency rooms, right? But I can't leverage that money, right? It's 1-to-1. But I can leverage to a factor of 50,000 to 500, 10 times local investment dollars. And so that's powerful. And so, yeah, the cost ultimately, if you look at it from a per door, it's heartbreaking. And I would love to challenge us in the headwinds that $500,000 creates, because if it was, you know, if it was $200,000, we could do a lot more for sure. But let's just also remember that the cost per door is $50,000 at Bluebird. And so super exciting and lower in Longmont because the land was free, right? And so, you know, it's, you know, that to us is the future and how we can have an impact. We're serving the highest need folks who are the most at risk of dying, with the most serious impairments and the worst luck. And we're doing the best we can do for them by the data, the most reliable thing we can do, the biggest impact on the community, because their community charges drop by 90% once they're housed, right? So the impact on the community is unbelievable. The best way to solve camping is to give a person a house. All of these impacts are best addressed by housing, $50,000 a door. So we think that's really exciting.
If I could just add on one item to that as well, sort of connecting it to the tiny homes. So I noticed in your comparison, you're actually not comparing apples to apples.
Oh, I know, absolutely not.
And so we looked at tiny homes in Boulder. And so generically speaking, and I like the leveraging analogy, but land in Boulder to create affordable housing, let's say, is $100,000 a door.
Just the land.
Just the land, not developed, no infrastructure,
Not entitled.
not entitled. And also, if you're doing tiny homes, you're probably doing a third of the density. So the land cost is now $300,000 a door to do tiny homes in Boulder. Then you put the infrastructure on top of that. Let's say $50,000 a door or 70 entitlements gets you up to 400. You put a $70,000 unit on it. Now you're at $470,000 a unit.
I'll build a nice apartment building.
With more units, with 3 times more units. So those are the things that we've been sort of struggling with. And I think one of the challenges we have is there's solutions in different cities and different communities that work really well. Some of them work in Boulder and some of them don't. But the other difference is where the money comes from to build a tiny home, to pay for the land. None of that's going to be leveraged with the tax, like the tax credits are.
Great, thank you. I have a couple of more quick questions and we'll open it up to anyone else. Melissa, what about the cost of what you're doing in your 3 buildings? I mean, how do you measure that? By the bed, or what is the overall cost of the building, or?
So we base our success off of the graduates that we're putting back out into the community. So we know, the cost of homelessness is expensive to the community, whether they're going through the courts, to the ERs, through police, fire, EMS, all of the resources that it takes to deal with somebody that's on the street, that's in an encampment. And, Mike works with those folks that are highly disabled, very vulnerable. They they're eligible for a voucher. The folks that we work with are not eligible for Housing First vouchers. They're just not. And it's unfortunate because the resources then for them kind of tank. So for us, when we look at the success of the program, it really is what do they monetarily put back into the community once they've gone through our program. So the cost for a single trainee to go through the program is about $47,000. Costs us to put somebody through. But when they graduate and they're out and they're paying taxes and they're going shopping and they're working and they're doing all the things that we do on a regular basis, you times that times, let's say 36 people that would graduate one house, you're looking at about $1 million that they're putting back into the community. So for us, the monetary value of them going through the program is outweighed by what they're able to put back into society, into their community where they decide to live. That is to us how we kind of judge the door. Now to build a facility, right now we're building Inglewood. It's about a $5 million project. So it is expensive to take these buildings, take them down to the studs, renovate and put them back into use in a congregate living style. But if we base that over years, monetary value that they're putting back into the community is substantial. The flip side to that, that we've not really talked about, is when somebody is housed and they've re-engaged with their family and they're re-engaged with their children, or they're going back to school or they're working, is that ripple effect. So when somebody is able to stabilize going into housing, they have a better relationship with their families and their children, and they're breaking cycles. So they're breaking some of the cycles of addiction and chronic homelessness, and that too has a monetary value that we're unable to really put a bow on. So really for us, it's about the sustainment of what they're able to do when they graduate.
Right, it's more of an investment model you're talking about, it's not just cost.
Right.
Which is great. And that building in Englewood, I mean, you couldn't build it for $5 million, right? If you had to go ground up, and
Yeah, I mean, it's pricey. I think everybody that has been
but
in
not as much as a
construction.
brand new thing, you're adapting a building.
Exactly. And, I think anybody that right now is trying to build, and I'm sure you're going through this with your project, supply and demand, some of the new regulations that have come out, especially how you're funding your projects, puts different compliance pieces in there. So it really is becoming more and more expensive to build the housing, whether it be permanent housing or transitional housing or a shelter, is so much more expensive. And I think that is one area where people on this panel and this board and people that might be listening, is talk to your stakeholders about lowering the ability to build some of these facilities, the zoning laws, the permits, all the pieces that go into building a facility is just difficult, but it's necessary. Back to Mike's point, the one way we end homelessness is to have enough affordable housing, and right now we just don't.
Can I jump in here?
Absolutely, I'm done.
A question I wanted to ask you on that, I mean, obviously money to fund your guys' programs would be awesome.
Yeah.
Money is also hard to come by when it comes to politics, as I'm sure you all know. Setting aside more money, what change in the law would you ask for to improve the services you provide? And I know that's a hard question because
Throw one out that's not of your domain, I would raise the minimum wage.
raise minimum wage.
It's the other side of affordability, and that's what we're seeing.
But if we raise minimum wage, which is great, we need to have better wages. On the flip side, we have to fix the resources that are attached to that. So when we raise minimum wage, we often don't think about raising the threshold for SNAP or housing vouchers or Medicaid. So we've seen some areas where people are offered a raise, and you have to do the math. If I take this $1 an hour raise, I lose my Medicaid and my food stamps or my food card, my EBT card. So if they take the dollar amount, that dollar raise, they're actually taking a decrease in their paycheck. So when we talk about minimum wage, we have to change the other side. So laws that can help are making sure that those are staying level so that we can honestly give people a chance to get a savings account and take that next step and actually grow with their raises.
Well, that's a really interesting
It's-
point because isn't eligibility for a lot of those programs, like, it's the same statewide
It's a federal.
or federal? And when you have Boulder County saying we're gonna raise minimum wage to 25, does that effectively kick a lot of people off of
Yes, It
Medicaid?
does.
Well, to
We've seen it.
$25, yes, but from going to $14 from 42 cents right now to $15, very few people are at that. You have to be at the
Yeah.
line. And in fact, in the city, I think it's the city of Boulder, usually it's the poverty line for a lot of the programs, and the average gap between being in poverty and being at the poverty line is $8,000 in the city of Boulder. So you've got a lot of headroom, unfortunately. So it will affect some people, and we work all day long with getting people through those, because they can still get food assistance, they can still, they can supplement. It's a strategy to get you through that cliff effect for those that are affected. We also see that people, well, for families with kids, like, oh, I don't have to work the night shift, both of us, and
Right.
leave, because, like, they may work less with us because it's that fourth minimum wage job may not be as necessary. So I think it's sometimes characterized as like that, that's everyone, and but it's not, it's very your case specific.
So minimum wage is one. Does anyone else have ideas?
Well, I'm not a housing barriers expert. I think that's probably more Laura's area, or if Catherine was here. And they could speak to specific laws that maybe could make an impact to Kurt. I'm sure has a lot of expertise in this as well. I would just point out that we have a 6 million unit deficit of affordable housing in this country right now. And our housing starts are about the same as they were in 1950. And so that's the problem, right? So to me, it's a musical chair analogy, right? You have 10 people that are looking for 9 chairs. And no matter what you do to those 10 people, we're missing a chair. If they're all have mental health issues, we're missing a chair. If they all are cured of their pathology, they're missing a chair. If they all have addiction issues, we're missing a chair. If they all go to treatment and find recovery, that we're missing a chair. And if we can raise the minimum wage, which I'm a big supporter of and a signer of the recent letter to the council, we're still missing a chair. And so I love the question, and I think that focusing specifically on the barriers, the legal barriers that prevent us from having more robust housing development, and lowering these costs of $500,000 to door to Houston's 200,000, or trying to at least incrementally make progress towards that is part of it locally for sure. So I'm really interested in the experts in that sort of legal realms, what might be helpful.
I mean, yeah, I do think that there's a number of things that really add to that $500,000 cost. When you work to leverage the tax credit equity that comes in, there's certain soft costs that you can't avoid. But a lot of those soft costs, as ironically we see, are things that we pay to the city of Boulder or pay a consultant to allow us to get through a city of Boulder process that enables that housing. And so, if there's a way to streamline for any housing, I mean, I think the analogy of, the 9 chairs for 10 people is great. If we could figure out a way for any developer, I mean, it'd be great if it was for affordable housing in particular, but if any developer could just get through the process a little bit more quickly, it would really enable us to streamline costs. I mean, we see incredible cost to entitle in this community. We see incredible cost to pay utility infrastructure costs that the city wants. Sorry, this is not you, the city, this is other people in the city. That need those improvements, that they piggyback on development work to make sure that the stormwater is right, or this is right, and it comes from Kurt's budget, really, because we're having a gap finance, and so we're looking into the city, our friends at the city here that can help us. Not that there are other people on our list. So I think, fee waivers, looking to streamline or fast track entitlements for affordable housing. And while that's part of Prop 123, we haven't really seen that happen in real reality of what I'm doing anyway. If we could see the city relax on affordable housing anyway, if they want infrastructure improvements in the land that we're developing, they can come in and pay for it. I mean, there's certain stormwater costs Or for a, we had a $500,000 cost add to Hilltop that was because one planner said one thing, it didn't like the velocity of the water, and has been problematic for our budget, And so those are the types of things that if the Housing Authority, Housing Advisory Board could advocate for streamlining or for finding budget. And, if that comes to a money thing, right? So, we understand that the city needs these things to be done, but.
But there's efficiency
the-
cost loss when you're paying consultants and lawyers to fight with the city. That money's evaporating as opposed to actually being used. to
Well,
build
and
the
that is what
infrastructure.
is contributing to this, $500,000 to $700,000 cost per day. That is a reality. Hard construction costs is probably more in the, $350,000 to $425,000.
And I think the city can also relax some of the permit fees because, or
Those
waive
are-
them.
If it's
Crazy
affordable,
expensive.
yeah, or for, what they do.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So my impression is that Boulder is a very generous community, and all of you are evidence that we have a lot of expertise and a lot of compassion. But the problem isn't just Boulder, right? Like, this is a regional problem, this is a national problem, and part of the $500,000 to $700,000 a door cost could be mitigated if we went to less expensive communities and created that 10th chair. So my question is, to what extent is there efforts to create regional solutions where maybe some of your expertise is shared in less expensive communities? Because the magnet effect of people coming to Boulder because we have these services, Boulder can't solve all the problems. So talk about regional solutions, please.
If I could mention a thing that's current right now, and that's the 1B funding that passed last fall. That will come into place at the beginning of 2025. It's about $17 to $18 million a year that's dedicated towards affordable housing in Fulton County. The commissioners have had a couple of, well, they had a meeting a couple months ago, actually focused on homelessness. And it was with different elected officials trying to figure out how we can do this, work on these solutions throughout all of the communities, not just predominantly Longmont and Boulder, are providing housing and the services around this. It would certainly be my goal, or if I could wave a magic wand, that Superior, Louisville, Lafayette, Erie would all have a permanent supportive housing development done in the next 5 years. In part through 1B funding. In 1B funding, we'll have funding for housing development as well as supportive services. That's an opportunity that I hope we as a larger community don't miss. Because homeless, I'm sorry?
How much? 18 million?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And I think the challenge is that individuals who become homeless come from every community. They don't come from simply Boulder. I was looking at the data this morning. I think about it's a little over 20% of the homeless now in our community have been here for more than a year. That's in part because we've housed so many individuals. But we need a regional approach that's going to address this. We as the city of Boulder cannot create enough housing to solve this.
But I think, I'm sorry, but I think the good news is that is happening. There
Yes.
are other communities that are building navigation centers. We operate a navigation center here in Boulder, just before COVID, and we're going back into navigation for our Inglewood location. But you have very robust navigation systems going into Denver, into Aurora, into Colorado Springs, into Jefferson County is looking into one, Loveland's looking into one. So I think your idea of more regional approaches to, conquering homelessness is in play. And I think that is because there's so much focus on the housing market and the homeless population and all of the vast people that are in the subcategories. So I do think that is the right way forward, is to have these, navigation systems that have all the resources so folks can go in to find the right door to go through for whatever resource is going to be their best need. So to your point, I think that is happening, but I don't really think that it's if we build it, they will come. Homeless population is in all of our communities. It's a problem that we're all facing, and we see it every day. And we just have to treat the folks that are in our community with the resources and hope that we can find the appropriate housing.
Yeah, and just on the family homelessness side to that. So we have housing sites in Longmont, Lafayette, Louisville, Boulder, and Nettleton. And we use it as a system. So if you're in Longmont, you may do intake through the Hour Center in Lafayette, through Sister Carmen, through the county, all over the county. So it is we move people between those communities. So I think there is a lot of good coordination on that side. And the idea that people are coming here because they have those resources, we see the opposite. If you look at the population statistics for families with children in Boulder County, which is an issue. We're losing our families with children. They're leaving because it's no longer affordable to raise a family. And that's a concern for every community in the county. It's concern to the school districts that are looking at declining enrollment. So I don't see that yet, the drawing, because there's a lot of resources for families. I see the opposite. They're fleeing to lower cost communities.
So Kurt, to your point, I know Element is doing another version of Bluebird in Longmont, correct? Do you know of other communities in Boulder County that are building 1137 Lee Hill, Bluebird? Not happening yet.
Not at this time. We're looking at, as a city, trying to tackle another one in the next couple of years. But I don't know of any others in Boulder County.
Do you feel like that 1B will give them an incentive to start moving in that direction, or is it?
I hope so, but that's only one component of the housing that's important.
Right.
We need more. We need the whole variety of housing types, and we need more, affordable family housing in all of those communities. Well, both rental and ownership. The last thing I'll say is when the Regional Housing Partnership put their strategy together in 2017, we said that we needed an additional $25 million a year as a Boulder County community to meet the housing goals that have been set. Now we're 7 years later, and we've got 15. The costs have gone up. We need 30 million a year. And so there's still a considerable gap in the resources.
Oh, you got a question?
Yeah, so this is one of my comments / questions, but I was listening to the Ezra Klein show recently, and he had on this congressman from Hawaii, and they were talking about why cities run by liberal progressive governments are really struggling to meet services and what's going on there, and there's kind of a mismatch between the willingness of people to kind of say things, they want to do things on paper, and the ability, the capacity of the community to actually go ahead and do those things. And one of the things he described in that interview was something he called checkism, which is you sign some sort of legislation that involves writing a large check, and you display it and you have a ceremony, and you say, here's this large check. Well, that doesn't necessarily translate into actually, moving all the things that need to get moved. And that was kind of my mindset about how to think about this problem. It's like you can't just write a big enough check to solve it. But you actually kind of flipped the script on that. You were kind of saying, we have a lot of solutions, And really like what we need is more funding. And if that's the case, I feel like that's like the easiest solution you can get is when you have all the capacity that you need and when the kind of right solutions in place and you just need more funding. And so is that what you were saying? And can we just write bigger checks and this problem will be solved?
So I think that maybe a good way to sort of contextualize this is why does the VA see success? And as opposed to, reducing homelessness nationwide, a subpopulation by 50% over 10 years, and Boulder's not seeing that same success. I think when you localize the impact of a very large system that is really has a very high housing costs and very low vacancy rates with extremely limited amount of land, that those restrictions, right, are going to prevent progress. That's a headwind, right? But I think that from the sort of system point of view, and my optimism that we can in fact solve this is more of a larger system lens, right? I mean, so the reason why there's success at the VA is because they have a good structure, they have a good system in place, but they're also applying it nationwide, which is a much less of a headwind, right? And they have an existing healthcare structures. They have the structure in place that they can actually place their systems into really peacefully. And so, of course, it's a much smaller population. And so I think that Ezra Klein is right. And I think I listened to that episode. He's very excited about the recent convention, how much they're talking about housing and NIMBYism and all this. And so I think he's makes some good points. I think in places where you have a lot of headwinds, like a San Francisco who wants to write a big check that's surrounded by water, it's sort of even their geographic reasons why writing a big check just isn't enough. And so we can make a bigger impact in Boulder because we have the right systems in place, and we can, if we have more funding, we will make a bigger impact. We'll have better results. We had better results going from a $2 million organization to a $12 million organization, and the impact is enormous for individuals, and we're doing much better work as a result of funding and developing a system. But I don't know if we can solve it for a community until we recognize that the system has inputs and the system has exits, and until the exits exceed the inputs, that's the math, right? And so that mathematic, we don't control the number of inputs. Right, that's really big macroeconomic, that's big system sorts of stuff. We have a system that's literally producing homelessness, right? We're trying to keep up downstream to a system that's producing lots of homelessness around a lot of stuff that we don't control. So whether or not we can tip the balance is unclear to me, right?
No matter how big the check is.
I don't know the answer to that, right? But I know that we can get closer to that balance. I know that we're going to make a lot more progress if there's more resources. We're certainly not going to do it without resources, right? So if the status quo is good enough for us, then the status quo is good enough. But the only way to get better results from a system that I trust is to give more resources. That's the main barrier. I mean, I talked about the four wheels, right? Let's talk about what's underfunded. This is because we're a little out of balance. Everybody thinks that if you hire case managers, you end homelessness. It's like sending a carpenter to a job site without any wood. They're not going to build anything, right? So the wood is the rental assistance, durable assets, and the supportive services. That's what the hardest to raise money for. And so if we do a better job, and those we'll get better results. But what will we tip the balance? Will we actually exceed our inputs?
Okay, but I guess my question is actually really like, is the biggest focus, like in terms of advocacy and helping push move the needle, isn't it about just improving access to funding?
Yes.
So that feels like a simple
I mean,
message.
I can tell you from my work, like, there was a lot of COVID money that was being put into rental assistance. That's drying up. We're gonna see more people actually get evicted. It's one thing when they come to eviction court and we can connect them with EFA or whoever, City of Boulder people, there's staff in place to connect them with money. We have the infrastructure in place to connect them with things, but there's no money left to connect them with. And that's going to be a big problem for us moving forward.
I have a wonderful story to share if you want. It's kind of funny. about this very subject, because, I mean, I don't want to overpromise that we can solve homelessness if you write us the biggest check ever, but we can make a lot more progress. There's lots of more room to make
I'm
progress.
not
but-
saying I write big checks.
My first year as program director at the shelter, I was at a ribbon cutting for EPA, it's 2011. Terry Benjamin, a great guy, was, predecessor of Julie's, and he was sort of a famous homeless figure, and I went up to him and whoever the governor was at the time and now did this big homeless, we're gonna get this homeless committee together and we're gonna really be innovative, and there was a lot of energy around it. And I went up to Terry and I said, Terry, what do you think about this, the governor's announcement about this, this homeless committee and we're, they're gonna make all this progress. And he looked at me and he goes, Mike, I was on Governor Lamb's first committee and I've been on every committee since. And if I hear one more person tell me all we have to do is collaborate, communicate, coordinate, and have one more program that's gonna solve homelessness, I'm gonna quit. What I need is more resources. And so I'll never forget it, that we talk so much about these things that have marginal impacts, and we don't talk about resources. We talk about systems. We're one data system away from solving this. Oh my God, if I hear another person say that, I'm gonna quit, right? We're with one more program, one more innovative idea away from solving homelessness. Again, it's really, really frustrating. Oh, if we only collaborate better. The problem is that we have all the resources in the world, but we don't talk to each other. I'll quit if I hear that one more time. I think it's what everybody here says.
So it sounds like it's more money and then reducing construction costs.
What's
Which
translating that
is
money?
money.
Yeah.
But it's a different
translating
one.
that money into actual.
So I think the other thing is that City of Boulder is a constrained community. Restrained going out, up, down, every which direction.
Right.
We have limited, and one of my goals is for the highest percentage of housing that gets developed in our city to be permanently affordable. And I think it's about 35%. We need to get all the other community, we have the solutions, we have the coordination, it's actually working. This needs to happen in all the other communities because it's a national challenge. We're not going to solve a national challenge in Boulder. It's going to take, federal coordination, it's going to take a state, but every local community has to lean in to this type of work.
Can I get you to clarify something? Did I hear you say that 30% of all the housing being built in Boulder is affordable housing?
So 35%. So 100 units of housing is built in our city over a period of time. Trying to pull the numbers now, but about
19.
What's that?
19 is new construction,
Okay,
and the balance is acquisition of existing housing and converting it to affordable.
yeah,
No, but I'm just saying all housing built, of all housing being built in our city,
yes,
30% is affordable.
35.
35, I keep saying 30, sorry.
So it's
Wow, that's huge.
it's a weird number because it's not 35% of 100 because the preservation units are already existing units. So over time, we've had, and a lot through BHP, purchasing existing market rate housing, turning that into affordable housing. So that's part of the housing stock.
It's not new housing, it's housing coming on the market.
Yeah, so as Jay said, 19 of the 100 units will be new units. We'll have
Do we have the
preservation,
statistic
Yeah.
for new construction, what it is?
19%.
It's 19% of
Yeah.
new construction.
Yeah,
Pretty
but
good.
we're, in Jay's team, he has folks that go out and they buy condos. We turn those into permanently affordable units as well in our city. So there's different approaches to this.
I guess one balance area would be like for homelessness solutions, we're looking at rental units. We're not taking a homeless person and putting them in permanently affordable home ownership overnight. That's just not how it works. So I guess there is some competition there between when new units are going on, the market, is this going to be a rental or is this going to be an owner unit? And
The permanently affordable is in either category.
Yes.
well, when we say permanently affordable, there's deed restricted home ownership, and then there's also subsidized rental housing.
Most of it's subsidized rental housing.
So when we say 19% of units being built, is that just rentals or does that include the home ownership as well?
Yeah, 100 new units are built in our city.
Yeah,
19 of those new ones will be permanently affordable.
rentals.
Well, they may be rental, but we're looking at all, like, all
Yeah.
ownership and, I mean, all units.
But I guess the point is like they're, the people who are buying the permanently affordable homes, those people are not homeless. So there is, when the city gets involved in new housing stock, we're acquiring existing, it makes a decision saying, will this go as a cheap rental or will this go as a subsidized ownership opportunity? It's sort of benefiting different demographics in our community. And I guess when we think about homelessness and then, home ownership, those are two competing demographics when we have a limited stock of affordable housing. So I guess that is something, through our democratic system, we kind of have to weigh is with this stock of government subsidized housing, who do we want it to go to?
And currently, it's very much leaning towards those who are most in need.
I mean, that question is born out of scarcity. We wouldn't have to make these tough choices if, right, we have to prioritize a need because of scarcity. That's what creates that competition, which is really, really sad, pitting needs against each other.
Yeah, but when we talk about building 3-bedroom affordable townhouses, that could also be 3 apartments, in theory, 3 one-bedroom apartments that you could stick a family of 4 that's homeless in. I mean, that's not the best situation, but I don't know.
You're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to,
Breaking some law.
but you do get but you understand what I'm saying there. Like
You gotta build it.
there is a scarcity issue there. And it seems like as a city, there is something to debate there. We are building government subsidized housing. It's what kind do we build? The permanently affordable for the family that can afford a $3,000 a month mortgage, or do we turn that into 3 apartments for people who can, only pay $400 a month in rent?
Great. Well, I think that's a great question for another day because I want to respect the time of our panelists who've done such a great job. And Kurt, are you good with wrapping up? Do we need to take one more question? How do you feel about it?
Well, I think this is probably the best panel I've been on around homelessness in a long time. And appreciate the questions, and I hope that a lot of people will listen to these wise individuals up here.
Great. I'll do a little minutes write up and you can all review it, and we should give our panel a nice hand of applause. Thank you. And you can go home now. Take a cookie with you. Yeah.
Or 2.
I don't know if everyone actually qualified for the cookie.
We ate them.
We had a quiz.
We need to go.
We have a couple of business items to discuss. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, I really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. This was very educational.
Please remember.
So, before we get to the minutes, just a couple of things. We have on the table a potential tour of Bluebird with Catherine Bean, who's represents the private sector developer on properties. I heard from a few people that September 11th was a good day for that. And since we're all here, maybe you can weigh in. We can schedule that. I could do it sort of mid-afternoon. I've already toured it.
Twice.
Twice. I think our
It's
continuing.
wonderful. It's really wonderful.
I will not be here September 11th, but you guys,
There were other dates, so if you want to take a look at that email and throw something else, we could look into that. Because I'm available most of the dates she proposed. When you're looking at that, I did you may not have noticed, maybe you did, in our packet we got from Tiffany, we had a response from city council to our letter that we sent before the retreat back in April. It mentioned the comp plan updates and the schedule for that. And I think we've already heard they're trying to speed up that process and finish it in 2026. And then there was also an item about homeless strategy, so you can find that, and I think it said that they were gonna hire a consultant to take a look at, maybe you know more about it. I should have asked that. Well,
That would have been a great question for them.
sorry about that.
It is specific to HSBC, the Housing Solutions for Boulder County, and evaluating that framework and process. It's not specific to the city of Boulder.
I see.
Michael, to answer your question on the Bluebird tour, I'm gonna be out of the country the 11th through the 19th. So, and Friday the 6th does not work. So the 4th is the only date I can do, but if I can't attend, that's.
Anybody who's here, know if you're available on the 4th? Checking myself.
Are we talking October or September?
September, I could do it.
So it's next Wednesday.
I could do it.
How long is it gonna be? Like an hour?
Have a calendar.
I do, I can.
Okay, Karen? are you-
What time?
Can we do later, like 3 o'clock?
That email up to suggest times.
It says 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. on the 4th. I can't imagine it would be a 3-hour tour, so
Right.
I would,
An hour.
I think 3 o'clock later would be better.
Three would work for me.
3 work for me. It's an hour if it's 3 hours.
Yeah.
I don't think I think we should do an hour tour. I think 3 hours is
Danny,
long.
could you do that?
Yep. The
It
4th,
is-
right? Wednesday, the 4th?
Wednesday, the 4th,
Yes.
and is Julianne, are you still with us? No, she jumped up. Okay. Well, let's do that. We'll just do it next week and,
Okay.
you know, in touch. Um, Anybody have anything else before we go to the minutes? Any open discussion?
I have something.
Great, go for it.
So I was walking my dog along the creek path on Monday night, late at night. And I walked under the library and there's a group of people hanging out by some tents. And they invited me to eat some food with them. I have my dog with me, so that was a very bad idea. So I respectfully declined. But then I thought about it and I was thinking, should I invite them to comment on our homelessness meeting? But I realized I don't think that would work. Like they can't zoom in probably. And, you know, here we are. What was that?
Most of them have smartphones.
They might, I don't know. I was walking my dog. It's something I sort of thought about after the fact. And then
Wait, is this like the Rosewood Tunnel?
this is where the library goes over the creek,
Wait, down here or up in North Boulder?
south in
Okay.
central Boulder, right
Okay.
along Boulder Creek. So I don't know, I was just thinking and like, I feel like since I've been on this board, which is less time than everyone else, we've had so many great speakers and we've had so many good policy focused conversations, but I don't think we do a very good job at public and community engagement. And specifically the public comment portion of our meetings usually feels like it's maybe one person who comments. And tonight that person said she feels like she's talking into a black box. And then we just sort of moved on. And I don't know, my takeaway from all this is we're not doing a good job at facilitating a constructive public comment with our community. And I do think that part of what these advisory boards in Boulder are supposed to do is be somewhere where the people in theory can go and then we can communicate things to council. And, you know, we're the housing advisory board. We're not like the liquor registration board. So I do think, you know, among all the boards, public engagement for us and what we do is very important. So I put together a motion. And basically, what I'd like to see is us be in a forum where people can attend in person and engage in public comment. And we'll see if it works, if people come and participate, but I think it's something that we should try. So Danny, I know you're virtual, so you'll just have to listen to me talk. Pursuant to Boulder Revised Code Section 2324D, the City of Boulder Housing Advisory Board's responsibility is to advise the city council and city manager on housing issues, strategies, goals, and policies, and to develop and recommend with community input innovative approaches to accomplish the city's goals. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, the Housing Advisory Board met in city council chambers at 1777 Broadway, where the public could attend meetings in person. According to the February 26, 2020 meeting agenda, board members and staff would join the public in a circle of chairs to engage in public dialogue.
I'm sorry, Jeff, can I interrupt?
Sure.
I think this is really great. I'd really like to have everyone digest it and vote on it next month.
And if you'd like to table it, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, I just
I
think.
guess I'd like to have a question like, is there a reason why we're not more public or in the chambers open to the public? Like, my guess is there was some thought and deliberation to come up with this policy. So can you remind us what the justification was?
Ethan, help Tiffany. It's COVID.
I don't know who presented the policy. I just know that we as board secretaries have been designated to these spaces. At first it was technology and security because of the big open building, having just a board and having just us to clear the building after small board meetings versus the larger council meetings when there was more staff present. So there was a security concern. That is where it was left. They told us a couple months ago that they were redoing the technology in the council chambers. And then we haven't received any training on any of that updated.
So do any other boards, any of the other boards open to the public?
What's the planning board doing now, Emma?
We're at council chambers. We're hybrid.
Meet like this hybrid, like people zoom in if they want
There's
to come.
Zoom and they can come to the council chambers
Well, they can do both.
as well because we're at the council.
Either or.
So we can wait on voting on this. I would like to read it, into the record and for Danny's
I think
benefit.
that, I really appreciate it working. I think it's a little laborious. And if we have a month to read it and do a reading at the beginning of
Okay.
next meeting.
Well, let
I'd
me
be
just jump to
happier
the
about that.
end, what I'm proposing.
Okay,
here.
sure.
Which is that, look, like, I'll just summarize it. The city says over and over again, let's embrace diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. In 2019, the city council resolved that city council recognizes the need to examine seemingly neutral policies and practices to determine whether they are contributing to racial inequity and where needed, change or eliminate the policy or practice, as the city has a long history of decision and policy making that has resulted in classist and racist outcomes. I mean, we hear this all the time in Boulder. The reality is only certain types of people attend meetings via Zoom. There's certain people, for example, homeless people who may not have the resources or the technological sophistication to do so. And I think we owe it to our community to have a forum that all people can attend. I think ideally that means some people can Zoom in because maybe they have mobility issues, but then there's other people who maybe live along the creek path and don't have a phone and they need to come in person. I think we should do a better job in constructively facilitating public dialogue. With that being said, I also recognize that we don't really have the power to do anything other than advise. So the motion that I am proposing is that the City of Boulder Housing Advisory Board advises this, that we pass a formal resolution of the board that the City of Boulder Housing Advisory Board advises City Council and City Manager to promptly take all actions to reasonably practicable to ensure that all members of the public can participate in Housing Advisory Board meetings, both in person and virtually.
I really agree with this, and again, it's great work. I do plan on making a motion to table it and vote on it as maybe agenda item number 1 next month, so we can chew on it a little bit.
Yeah, and that's fine. I
There
don't,
may also be technical issues around meeting in person, like where do we go? Can we do that? Do we need security? You know, that's
I'll reach
for
out to the
Jay and
council.
yeah, and that's why I don't want to put a burden on Tiffany and Jay. Like, I realize you guys have finite resources. You shouldn't be tripling as our security detail and all of that. But that's why this goes to the manager and the council, which is if we need to have meetings and that requires security, then let's make it happen. So people are safe and that there's an environment where we can have public dialogue, not just Tiffany doing everything and being stretched thin.
But there's always been kind of, my expectation is we would always return back to in-person and have the added benefit of Zoom, because Zoom, actually, we got more people participating once we had that capability, because you're right, it's easier, more flexible, particularly for folks to tune in from home.
And that's how like county court in Boulder, like they have the option to, you can show up to court virtually or in person. And it's always hybrid, but this is basically virtual only for the public. And we get minimal participation. So I think we do need to consider how do we have that dialogue. I also want to say thank you to Karen and thank you to Michael for like putting homelessness on the agenda. Like this is something that I know I've been pushing for, and sort of my motion kind of goes consistent with that, which is we had great panelists tonight. I mean, this was excellent. I don't think there were any homeless people here. And that's, you know, understandable, but this would have been the sort of meeting that it would be great if maybe more members of the public could attend. So, you know, I think we should consider how can we make these meetings more accessible and how can we sort of engage public dialogue and transmit that into policy recommendations for council. I think we're doing a great job listening to subject matter experts, but I think we should try to engage the community as well.
Yeah, great points. And I also have to thank Jay and staff for helping organize this panel. I felt like they were really engaged. Kurt said so. So I'm pleased. We all learned something and we can translate this into action, I'm sure.
And I really like the fact that, you know, the goal of this panel was to focus on housing solutions related to homelessness. And so we didn't get sidetracked in terms of all the other contributing factors and all the other programs. It really was very much housing focused, which was sort of as a mission accomplished. Like that was
and more than
the goal.
implicit in this discussion, and I heard Megan talk about this in the chamber, for all this progress, we're not keeping up, and it's going to get worse because there's going to be more evictions in all probability. So moving towards solutions is really important. I forget if I'm allowed to make a motion or not, Chair. Can I make a motion?
Of course.
Okay. Motion that we table the resolution presented by Stephen Hennessy and put it as one of the top agenda items for next month for to be scheduled as an action voting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the resolution passes unanimously among those present. Thank you, Stephen Hennessy, for bringing this up. I would have brought it up if you hadn't been, you're way ahead of me.
Any other agenda items first?
Yeah, just one, just something Jay and I talked about a little bit yesterday was alpine balsam. And, you know, I think it'd be useful for us to get a progress report on what's happening. I think Jay's willing to do that in our next meeting. And it's also on the planning board's agenda for September 24th, I believe. And that's a site review.
It's a,
voting item.
no, it's going through form-based code. And so I think it's just informational for us. I don't think we're having any.
You have a very small piece, really specific to the parking structure.
Oh,
All right.
that is.
But you're gonna get an overview of the larger project,
Right.
and what's going on. So BHP will be there to talk about the housing component. Facilities will be there to talk about the building. So I talked to the team, the facilities and BHP team about this. Our meeting is the day after planning board, the evening after planning board.
Yeah.
So their preference would be to come in like October.
Oh, okay. Okay.
When were we thinking of touring your facility?
Yeah, so that's October 23rd. But we could do a specific tour. It's also the same night as as our meeting. So we talked, we can't have a formal meeting there. Because we don't have the Zoom capability. That's the challenge. That's why we're in this room and not in council chambers. But that's an option. I mean, we could, instead of the October meeting, we could just have a tour of the factory.
So I don't know how much of this we will get. The questions in my eyes are, we keep on hearing it's an expensive project to move forward for underlying infrastructure. So forth. What does that really look like? You know, can we get a kind of an overview of that? What might happen first? You know, what are the prospects for actually seeing housing rising out of the ground, and then what kind of a timetable? So those are my general questions. I'm sure others will come up when we discuss it in the meeting. Does that sound like a good plan for everybody?
For next.
Actually, it would be October.
So we still need more.
So we could do a tour and then come here and have a meeting, right?
Of the factory?
Yeah.
No, I have we have the grand opening that you.
Oh, okay. So we just show up for that.
Well, I mean, we can do something special for HUD. You can get your own special tour. Because you know the project manager.
Do you think we should do your tour in November instead of October, because you already have something on October that conflicts with this?
Potentially, I'm throwing that out there. I mean, I'm just saying we need more agenda items and just opening it up to the group. And then the chairs and I can figure out how to schedule everything.
But Michael, you were asking about September.
September, I guess we could probably use the agenda item for that, right?
Yeah. And would that be the?
No, well, we're gonna vote on your resolution. That's a big one right there.
Is it the third or the fourth one?
The fourth.
The fourth.
So one of the topics that I'm interested in is how can we create housing for firemen, policemen, teachers, nurses without violating fair housing acts? Like, and I know that I've been trying to coordinate with Danny because he's been able to do that within some of the mountain communities, but you know, I think about Boulder's housing, like ideally it should be a bell curve where like, you know, there's fewer inexpensive units and fewer very expensive units, and the bulk is in the middle, right? But Boulder isn't like that. Boulder is more like a flagpole where like we have a base of very affordable, we have like essentially no missing middle income housing, and then there's a big amount of very expensive housing. So if the city wanted to sort of engineer what our base is like and make sure that there was a subset of our service providers that could live locally and raise their family, is there ways that the community can dedicate housing to the fire department, and then they do a lottery, and the police department, and they do a lottery, so that we ensure that that some of our service providers can live in the community, and they would choose to forego, you know, their housing appreciation potentially for the opportunity to raise a family in Boulder. So that's a topic I'm interested in.
Yeah, maybe the answer is how do we facilitate employer provided housing? Like maybe that involves BHP leasing units out to the fire department and then they sublet it to their employees. Danny?
That's exactly what the answer is. It's employer generated housing. So it could be the school district, it could be the fire district. It could even be the city. And there's certainly a lot of models that you can work off of those, but that's the whole notion of, you know, having the employers, particularly large employers and particularly large employers of civil servants or other people who are classically, you know, underpaid and underappreciated. But having those entities either partner with the city, do it independently, whatever it may be, but to be stakeholders in the whole employee housing effort. And it can be done, and it's done quite frequently throughout the mountains and a lot of other communities, even on the Front Range. And so I think it's definitely merits some conversation. It's something that we could kind talk about. I know that we've had it before in our letters to the council. It's been a thing that I've kind of harped on for years, and I just think really, that's an important part of this, right? So like the school district is probably the best example where, I mean, they have more skin in the game than anybody, and the whole notion of being able to house teachers who have such an incredible challenge of being able to live here in the community where they serve.
They also have a ton of land.
Yeah, a ton of land.
Tried to develop and got shot
Well,
down.
and maybe,
Right.
maybe for administrative purposes, the answer is maybe we want to hear from someone at Boulder Valley School District, Fire Department, what have you. What issues are your people facing when it comes to housing? Because it sounds like we kind of know, maybe that's what we want to hear from.
Well, I think, I don't think the issue is why can't they live here? I think I'd be more interested in Danny coming up with a couple of potential panelists who could talk about what's been done successfully in other communities and figure out if we can replicate it.
Yeah, ML has a comment.
Well, the only thing I want to put on the table is that we are starting the Boulder Valley Comp Plan update. And one of the focuses is the missing middle house, which is exactly this. So the conversations, and it's going to be a pretty robust community engagement conversation. How do we pair policy with our visions and goals to create more missing middle? That is one of the things that we're going to focus on. So we're going to try to start putting things into our zoning, into our land use process that will create avenues. And I think if this HAB puts together something that says, here's the pathway that the mountain towns have used to do that, perhaps it can inform the policy and the strategy. So what do we need to put in place to make that happen? Right now, we're seeing the things happening that we're seeing happen. And, we're getting what, 11, what percent? I can't remember what the percent was. If we look at the real number.
36% total.
Of all the, even the rehab, but 11 and 100, 11%.
Sorry, 19.
Housing that's being built is in that something has got to change, and we got our eyes on the Boulder Valley Comp Plan. Start putting pathways in, because right now they aren't there.
Well, and I think this is actually a really important point based on new change to state law that I don't think everyone's digested, but basically the law has changed in Colorado. It says that if you have a tenant who's lived there for a year, you have to renew their lease on reasonable terms unless you have cause not to. And then there's a whole list of cause. Cause could include you want to demolish the place and rebuild it, or you want to move in there, you own it. But this could be a serious problem for like housing authorities, like if they're trying to create housing for, let's say, firefighters or teachers. And let's say someone gets a job as a teacher, but there's nothing, it's not employer provided housing. They're no longer a teacher after a year, but they're occupying that space that was intended for teachers. I was even thinking when they're talking about the transitional housing, I'm like, under current law, I don't know if you can really have transitional housing. I think they might have a right to stay there. And again, this is a new law, so I don't think we've totally digested it. But employer provided housing is treated very differently. And employer provided housing exists, for example, ski resorts need people to work at the resort, so they provide the housing. When someone stops working there, they can get rid of them a lot easier than, a traditional type housing. And if we want to have housing for low-income civil servants, we may have to look at a different approach than just saying apply through PHP if we want to serve the purpose of making sure there's housing for teachers and for firefighters and that sort of thing.
And that's the whole notion of having the employers themselves have skin in the game. And so I represent Copper Mountain, probably one of my biggest clients. We house over 1,000 employees or something like that. Your housing is part of your employee benefit package, essentially, right? So when you're done, that's done. So there are ways that you can do it as an employer, even with the new statutes that are in place. But I think again, the whole notion here is employers who have a lot to gain or lose from the whole system. Having that skin in the game and trying to, take the steps to actually be part of the solution for the housing for their own staff, which is a huge issue for most of them because of, concerns over retention, affordability, insane commutes, et cetera. So
hey, instead of us hashing this out tonight, can we just propose that this would be a topic maybe for September and then identify whether we're just going to talk about it as a group or whether we want to bring in some speakers or panelists or whatever? Because it certainly sounds like there's some great ideas here, there's some curiosity, and that it would create a topic that we could then actually present to City Council as a recommendation. So
I think that's a great idea. I think if we're gonna hear from anyone, like, I think Danny can talk a lot about the legal mechanics of all of it. I think more, do we want to hear from employers who are actually faced to say, hey, this is actually a problem. What is it that the school board wants when it comes to housing?
see,
Or
I'm
the
less
school
interested
district?
in what they want, because I think we know what they want. I'd be more curious to know in what has been successfully done.
what has been
Yeah.
done, right? I agree with that. But I think, we're not gonna solve anything now at 9:55.
Right.
No, but I think they need to be involved in the conversation if.
Well, I think to
there's a
Karen's
solution.
point, we talk about it as a group and plan a session around this with maybe Danny provide some ideas of a speaker or more than one speaker. And then we figure out how to translate like Copper Mountain into CU or Google or whatever.
I don't think we need to help Google. They
Well, you know what I
they seem
mean.
to do okay.
No, I know, but if we're talking about like, who are the big employers in Boulder and what would be their incentive to participate in such a program, but that's a topic to.
And do they have the wherewithal to do it?
To clarify, and this is one of the things, and this is why, we can have a lot of conversation on this. So maybe, Michael and Karen, you guys do the chairs conference. I'll pop in and we can chat about, who we might be able to pull into that and stuff. But this like Vail Resorts wouldn't do a single thing volitionally. They're required to have that housing, right? So that's part of it too. It's not like all these employers are doing this volitionally. The whole notion is, what's your responsibility here to help be part of the solution, right? And that's with private employers. I mean, they would deal with public employers. There's a lot of different issues, but the point of the matter is, this is much more complex, but it's also much more promising. And you've seen it in a lot of places because now, especially in the mountains, private employers are doing it left and right because it's the only way that they can get any quality employees to stay, right? So fire departments are doing it.
In Boulder.
law enforcement's doing it, et cetera. And so from that perspective, I think, it certainly merits further conversation.
Okay, well, why don't we talk about it at the chairs meeting and put it on the agenda for further board discussion. And we'll figure out how to build an informational program on that with the eye on, like, we're actually gonna make a recommendation on this. And one more possible agenda item, and it probably doesn't be in September, but what are they calling zoning for affordable housing now, Jay?
I have it written down here. It's called
Something.
family-friendly, vibrant neighborhoods.
There you go.
What is this?
This is what used to be called zoning for affordable housing, and it's something that council has passed, but now they have to extrude it and turn it into an actual policy, if I'm not oversimplifying that. There are good friends at Better Boulder and Boulder Housing that were actually doing some good analysis on this and coming up with detailed policy recommendations of their own. I wonder if that would be, maybe we get a representative from each of that group to come here and talk with us about what they may put into that. It might inspire us to make our own recommendation.
When is that coming to planning board? Jay, do you see it on your?
I think it's later this year.
It's been delayed,
Oh,
so it's probably not gonna be until November or December.
okay.
So give that some thought. I am gonna make a motion to adopt our minutes from June. And then
to adjourn, but that'll be a separate motion. So do I have a second on a motion to adopt our minutes?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, it passes 5-0. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
8:59, sweet. Thank you, everybody. Great meeting.
There, guys.